A new batch of documents related to the Epstein case have been released. This is the second trove, and oh boy, we got some juicy stuff in here. A bunch of A-list celebrities were named, but of course it doesn't mean that anything wrong. It just means that Epstein liked to walk around claiming he was friends with a lot of celebrities, but well, maybe we should take a look at who these people are, because it's been known for a long time what Epstein was doing. But the big story is that according to one of the emails in the documents, Bill Clinton went to Vanity Fair and demanded they not report on what Epstein was doing with his trafficking, if you know what I mean. And so this appears to be an accusation, a report, a claim. Be very careful here, that Bill Clinton was trying to cover up what Epstein had been doing. Questions are why? So far, it's only speculation, but oh boy, we better talk about that one. We got some political news as well. The other day, there was reporting of widespread bomb threats at numerous state capitol buildings, sparking evacuations. For the second day in a row, this has happened. It's happened again. Many more evacuations. Things are getting crazy out there. And then, of course, political news. According to Newsweek, Joe Biden's volunteers are quitting in droves. They're abandoning the campaign. This is going to get real crazy. And I'm hoping it gets crazy in the sense that it becomes so overwhelmingly positive towards Trump that there's not even a question of political conflict at all. And everyone's like, yeah, Trump wins. And everybody wants him to. But we will see what happens. My friends, before we get started, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member to help support our work. And as a member, you see that banner right there. Timcast at the Iowa caucus, January 15th. Buy your tickets now, members only. Now, we launched, we're doing a town hall with Vivek Ramaswamy on the 10th. Very, very difficult to pull all this off, but we're going to do it. And it's expensive, but we're going to do it. And we sold out those tickets instantly. I'm not kidding. There's not that many tickets. There's all gone right when we posted it. This time we're posting only for members. You got to be a member if you want to buy the tickets. They're a bit more expensive. They're $150, but the Iowa Caucus IRL show is going to be longer. It's going to be an extended show where you're hanging out, and we are absolutely going to be taking questions from people in the audience. So this is more like directly engage and interact with the show. We have a multitude of guests that are going to be joining us, not just Vivek. It's a caucus, so everyone's going to be there. We've got I don't even know who we're going to have, but a lot of really great people. Of course, Seamus and Luke will be joining us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So become a member. As a member, you can then also get access to the tickets, but you'll also get access to our uncensored members only show, which is coming up tonight. And I will address for those last night that are wondering what happened to the show. It is not just YouTube's rules. But there are rules that every single social media platform, even X, has, that if the rules are broken, the show is gone. We talked about exactly what happened when we moved to the uncensored show. And whenever a show gets taken down here on YouTube or any other platform for that reason, we will move to the uncensored members only on timcast.com to explain what's going on. And the reason we do that is because that is quite literally where you can say almost anything you want, unless you're breaking the law. No one allows that. My point is this. There's a reason why X, Rumble, YouTube all have rules against doing things that are illegal. And so there's nothing we can do about it. If the show is off, it's because usually what happens is something was said and, show gets pulled. But it will be on timcast.com. And for all those that are wondering, the episode is up in full on Rumble, on iTunes, on Spotify, and all podcast platforms. It was available as soon as the show wrapped for free for everybody. So become a member if you want to support our work. Also go to castbrew.com, buy Cast Brew coffee. We sponsor ourselves. It's the best coffee you'll ever have. And buy it if you want to help support our work. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. And do all that. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Mona Salama.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Who are you? What do you do?
All right, so I used to be a reporter. I'm an analyst. Right now, I took a time off, so I'm trying to get back into everything. But yeah, that's who I am, a reporter, truth seeker, truth teller.
Right on. You've had a lot of experience with politics, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Covering, what you call it, the Tea Party network movement, covering the Trump campaign, covering Trump presidency, covering 2020, and then everything went downhill from there because the new America.
Hopefully it's going uphill from here.
Yeah.
Is that what we want to happen? Going uphill? It sounds hard.
Uphill sounds exhausting. Yeah. I don't want to go uphill. I want to be on top of the hill already.
Going downhill? Well, you got to go back up some point. But anyway.
When things come up, things go down.
Should be fun. Thanks for hanging out. Hannah Claire, of course.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Hey, I want to say thank you guys for following at Timcast News on Twitter. We just hit 100,000 followers today, so we're really excited about that. Couldn't do it without your support. And I'm very excited because Brett's here tonight.
What is going on, guys? Yes, my name is Brett Dasovic. I am the host of Pop Culture Crisis, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube. So I saw somebody talking about, like, when New Year's came, and they mentioned, they're like, wow, I hope we have a really, really uneventful 2024. I said, in an election year, let's not. It's not going to happen.
Off to a rough start.
It's off to a rough start. 4 days in.
And here's what we got. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it. Everybody, check out Pop Culture Crisis on YouTube right now. You want to show this, Serge? We got it right here. Pop Culture Crisis, 91,700 subscribers. Y'all go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis because the show format is very similar, except when you super chat on Pop Culture Crisis, money guns fire $20 bills into the air, and it's really funny when it lands in the guest's drink or hits them in the face. But as you can see, Pop Culture Crisis talks about pop culture issues, so it absolutely does.
It overlaps.
It overlaps.
Like we're going to be talking about celebrities in Epstein's Island tonight and all of these things. There's you end up talking. You talked about Star Wars the other day. Like, these topics, Disney, all of these things are very, very relevant to the culture. We get into it a lot about whether these things actually matter, because a lot of conservatives are of this opinion that pop culture doesn't matter. Well, your kids are getting information from somewhere, and they're pushing these ideologies on the next generation somewhere, and you have to be aware of what's actually going on if you want to fight back against this.
What time are you guys live?
3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So this is the point of Pop Culture Crisis. Not everybody cares about the headline of this video is Epstein list, right? You know a bunch of people who are going to be like, oh, I don't care about that. But when you get a new song that comes out, a new movie or new show, most people are like, oh, I want to know about that. And these are the people when these shows come out, it's these personalities that are influencing the younger generation. So that's why Pop Culture Crisis exists, hosted by Brett and Mary Morgan. So go subscribe and let's crack 100,000 subscribers and get that silver play button. Also, we got Serge hanging out.
Yes, indeed. You should check out Pop Culture Crisis. I should be on there eventually in the future. I know that I haven't been lately.
When you've got the time, my friend.
One of these days it'll happen again. I'm Serge.com. Let's get into this episode, Tim.
From the Daily Beast of all sources, Bill Clinton pressured Vanity Fair not to write about Epstein, new docs claim. An email from the newly unsealed court documents reports, quote, B. Clinton walked into VF and threatened them not to write about Epstein's sex trafficking. We actually have this. The Calvin Coolidge Project tweets out the email. It says, good points, all of them. I'm looking at both sides of the picture. On the upside, I will give exposure to build up publicity for the case, et cetera, et cetera. We'll skip over. And then it goes down to say, let me find this point. It must be carefully written and not give any notions about the upcoming book for any new info. When I was doing some research into Vanity Fair yesterday, it does concern me that they could want to write about me, considering that B. Clinton walked into Vanity Fair and threatened them not to write about sex trafficking articles and his good friend Jeffrey Epstein. Should I be asking, what is this story they're writing pertaining to? I just thank goodness for having a friend like you on the inside who knows how to deal with the viciousness of today's world. There's another email. It says, I would let Vanity Fair buy your picture via Brad. The big gamble would be to let him also give the statement saying your interviews with us were accurately reported and you have no more to say this time about how you were trafficked to PA and other men, including two of the world's most respected politicians, redacted and redacted, as well as women, the scenes with Ghislaine, because you are writing a book. PA, of course, Prince Andrew. And the other crazy thing is in the documents yesterday, there was a statement from a witness about who they had been trafficked to. And one of those names was still redacted. And the question is why? Why? So you, of course, had Prince Andrew. You had Jean-Luc Brunel. And then there was a name that was redacted. And everybody wants to know, what was that one name?
Who do you think it was? If you had to put money on it.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I feel like Bill Clinton's the most obvious, but, the fact is that it could be a lot of people, which is even more disturbing.
I disagree. I agree and disagree. Okay. It could be a lot of people. Fair. Okay. That's obvious. Who knows?
Right.
But how is it that Jean-Luc Brunel's name is released? Prince Andrew? How is it that a document released that's supposed to have these names unredacted for public interest, one name still gets redacted?
Maybe they weren't informed that they've been subjected to that they were called out by the witnesses.
No, that wouldn't matter. There actually is a fairly easy and obvious reason something that would supersede a civil claim. So you have these documents. Journalists file a lawsuit saying freedom of information, release the names. The court says yes and redacts one name. Why? National security. What could supersede a lawsuit on freedom of information that would result in the documents being released, keeping one of those names covered up? National security reasons.
And that person's still in office.
Bill Clinton. Not still in office. Okay. If that comes out, we know Clinton's named in these documents, but he's not named as actually having done anything related to trafficking, just having been flying on the plane and been around these people. And Jeffrey Epstein said Clinton likes them young. And now we're learning from the latest document dump that Clinton allegedly went to Vanity Fair and tried to cover up the Epstein story.
What year was this email?
Oh, let's pull that. It's probably like what do we have? 2011.
Okay.
I mean,
From
none of
Virginia
this
Dupre.
is surprising at all. Who remembers when Amy Robach got caught on the hot mic talking about how she had the story about Epstein and that her producer killed it, said she wasn't allowed to do it. Right? That was what, 2015 or something like that?
Yeah, there was a long time where Epstein was being covered up. This is post one of his sex offender convictions, though, right? Like there was a time when everyone knew that Epstein had a history. He had been convicted in Florida, and yet we still weren't willing to talk about him. It's a very strange time.
Some people think it's Joe Biden.
This is my current theory that actually Joe Biden is going to be on the list. I know we were floating Hunter earlier before the show, but I think Joe Biden is sort of a more precarious
It's not Joe Biden.
variable.
It can't be because he was
It's too long.
Yeah, it's too long.
It's too long.
And no, that's it. Brett nails it.
Hillary Clinton. Can it be Hillary
It could be
Clinton?
Hillary Clinton.
No, it's not long enough. So take a look at the length of the black bar, but that's not what matters, because when you're doing redactions, the placement of the redaction could be it's someone clicks it and drags it. We don't know. We don't
It'll be
know,
like
right?
the same size as Prince Andrew, that name.
But right, so you look at the commas of where it's placed in the document because the spacing of the text is not altered, and then what you can do is you can go from comma to comma. And you can actually determine how many characters exist in this person's name. You don't know. It could be 3 in their first name and 7 in the last name, or 7 in their first name, 3 in their last name. Who knows? But it looks like it's about the length of probably not Jean-Luc Brunel. That's too long. Maybe though. Prince Andrew. Bill Richardson seems to fit rather well in that spacing. We know it's not. I'm not saying it's literally Bill Richardson. I'm saying a name of that size.
Length, yeah, those many characters.
So it doesn't seem like it would be Bill Clinton. No, Dershowitz is named outright in these documents, so they don't need to redact that. And his name's longer. Yeah. I don't think Clinton, because if it said Bill Clinton, you can tell it would be shorter. So not Bill Clinton.
And it won't be Hillary, right?
And,
Hillary.
I mean, I
longer.
doubt what
You never know. She could be part of it, like
yes, but
the madame of the madame.
But these are guys,
right.
Bang it.
That's what I'm saying. This is me not looking at the
even
emails
funnier
and just
if it is her.
depending on it.
I mean, yeah.
Because you know what I really want? You
know,
know why I'm not really depending on the documents? Because a lot of this is hearsay. I really just want to see the JP Morgan list and see who he paid off. Because that's where you find out where the real crimes were hidden.
Damn, maybe that's where Stephen Hawking is. Maybe that's his name right there.
Do you think that's enough, Letter?
I was very sad that I didn't get to talk about the Stephen Hawking stuff last night.
Colin Rugg tweeted this yesterday. He said, a single name is redacted in a list of individuals who Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly directed underage girls to have sex with. Who is this person? The redacted name was next to former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, Prince Andrew, model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, and computer scientist Marvin Minsky. Released the name. I think it's a national security thing. Prince Andrew is not a national security issue for the United States.
Right.
I'm willing to bet it could be someone who's currently still in office.
But then you're saying it's national security. That means it has to be somebody current because Bill Clinton's name is over there. It's out there.
It doesn't have to be current. Like Clinton, former presidents still have Secret Service.
Yeah.
And so they could argue that information retained by the president, they'd say this, if a former president was directly implicated in these documents, the national security implications for this country would be nuts. Treaties could be at risk. Border disputes could ignite. Anything Bill Clinton had done could start to unravel. It could cause problems in the stock market. So absolutely. You could say Jimmy Carter for all we know, and they're going to be like, no way. But I don't think it says Bill Clinton. I think the redaction bar is too long. The spacing is too wide.
It says Joseph Biden.
Yeah.
Joseph R. Biden.
Yeah, but it would. It's R. Biden, isn't it? No. What is it? He has more than one middle name, doesn't he?
No, just one. Joseph
it's Robertina, something like that.
I think it's just Joseph Robert
Yeah,
Biden.
Joseph R. Biden.
Really?
It's even worse if the fact
check
that they're a serving president gets to keep them off the list and then using national security as a crappy excuse.
In this day and age, and
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
oh yeah, the junior. So then,
I don't think they'd use his middle name though, and I think Joseph R. Biden would be too long.
yeah, two, and then he has
And he's
to use junior.
popularly known as Joe. I think
Right.
the same way that they're listing, you know.
I
That's
think
why they did it. though.
Hypothetically, Prince Andrew has a last name too.
There's no reason to say Joe Biden. The people are only saying Joe Biden because he's president right now, right? And well, one thing I can tell you, we know it's not Donald Trump for a fact.
Can it be Barack Obama?
Yeah, Barack Obama may fit.
Because think about it, this is 2011.
Well, Obama was serving as president in 2011. This document's actually not. This is 2016.
Yeah, it's 2016.
So
But
the
like you
question
said,
is,
everything could be unraveled. And
why
he
is
was
this
doing that
redacted
around
now, though? I don't think Barack Obama.
No.
No,
I have this weird thing
I think
where-
Barack Obama's into other things. I don't think this is kind of his jam. Is
And this
Yeah,
is,
you know
I mean,
what I
I
mean?
can't flesh this theory out totally right now. I have to do some research, but Prince Andrew, Bill Richardson, they're actually closer in age. From what I understand, Barack Obama is slightly younger than them. So there is sort of a similar age group of people. That means they were running in similar circles. Barack, in some ways, was sort of outside that.
and I think he has different proclivities.
I can't speculate on his proclivities, partially because my mind would be
I'm half joking
horrified.
actually, and I'm sure like the chat is just igniting over
Yeah.
what that means about Barack
You
Obama's
just got my mind
proclivities.
thinking like,
The
who?
guy at the bar, him and the guy at the bar.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking
Michael.
about national security, and I'm just trying to think who worked in Obama's administration that's now working in
Tons of them. The thing
Obama. That's
is,
working
Biden's
Biden
administration
now.
is
That's
heavily
right.
staffed by former
That's what I'm
Obama
saying. You got my
administrators.
mind
Yeah, but it's
spinning.
but it's not
it's not high
just
enough profile
it doesn't need to be a
person.
president. It can
Yeah, but-
it could be like a dude named like John Jackson.
Yeah,
and
but it could-
his name is redacted because he worked for the CIA.
But like, if you could think of like, what's his name? Secretary of State. Blinken.
That's
That's a
true.
national
It
security.
does say on the next line, another prince. Like there's Prince Andrew, John Brunel, Bill Richardson, another prince. Which one? Somebody named this prince.
Wow, really? Another prince?
The petty little one, or the one that
Wait, hold
doesn't
on,
know
hold on,
what
wait.
he's
Doesn't
doing?
have to be British monarchy.
Wait. That's actually a really good point. Nobody pointed out. It says, other than Glenn Dubin, redacted, Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, Bill Richardson, another prince, the large hotel chain owner, and Marvin Minsky, is there anyone else? What do you mean another prince?
As long as
Yeah,
it's not the musician
Anybody
prince.
asked who that prince?
Yeah, but like, that's my breaking news journalism. Who is it? Because the thing
Second
is,
prince?
and it doesn't have to. I mean, like the Queen of Denmark just announced kind of abruptly on New Year's Day or Eve that she was going to resign. So there's
Yeah.
this moment where I'm like, is it someone in the Danish
she has-
monarchy? Because there are princes there. Like her son, the prince, is about to become king. Like I'm not here to slander him. I'm just saying hypothetically, we're thinking British
Another
monarchy,
prince.
but there are tons of princes out
Yo,
there.
how come nobody?
And
no,
nobody's
seriously,
that famous like the two brothers.
I didn't even realize
Compared to the
this.
princesses.
I
Nobody
didn't even
cares
think
about
about it.
royalty the way I do, but this
No,
That's true.
That's but
I like the queens.
who's the large hotel chain owner?
I mean, that's also interesting, right? Like,
What's his name? Cassimatidis. Because he's a really John Cassimatidis. Because he has
Yeah,
a supermarket
he's based in
and
New
the
York.
oil, and he donated to a lot of Republicans and Democrats.
he's a billionaire based out of New York. His
I think-
daughter's like the chair of the New York
Manhattan.
Manhattan Republicans.
I just think I'm like,
I don't-
look. Colin
assume.
Rugg tweeted this, and he's like, "Who's the redacted name?" And I'm like,
Who is this other prince?
"Who's the
You
other
got
prince?"
like now we got this prince.
Yeah.
But then maybe if we knew who the redacted name was, we might also know who the other prince was, right? Like,
What if it said like and an artist formerly known as Prince?
That's what I said. As long as it's not, as long as it's not that
not
prince.
him.
It can't be that.
As long as
prince.
Minnesota is safe.
Leave Minnesota out of this. I don't want any besmirchment to his name.
hotel.
Okay, check it out. Someone actually did the work. They said using Courier New, the redaction is 16 characters long.
Now everyone's gonna be sitting here like
This is the best crossword puzzle ever.
I know, right? I was like,
16
can we just play
characters.
Tetris now?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now people will have to start looking at politicians and getting character limits on all of their names so that they can start putting them in there to see who it ends up being.
I think it's important to point out,
16
however,
letters across.
Yes.
it's
Oh.
the name has 15 characters because there's a space
Yes.
between the
Space.
first and second and last name.
There's one.
Unless they got a-
There's one source reporting, or one publication, The Messenger's reporting that one of the victims said she had sex with Hyatt Hotels billionaire Tom Pritzker.
I thought it was Pritzker. I thought that might be Pritzker.
So that's probably
Wait,
who
the brother of Chicago governor? I mean, not Chicago, Illinois governor.
Governor.
I
Is
doubt
that his,
they're
is that
related, but
JB
I will
Pritzker and
check.
Tom,
Yeah, he's.
they're related?
I mean, no, I don't know
They
if
have the
they're
same last name.
They have but that family is
That
real
proves
estate.
it.
Real estate.
kidding.
And then
doesn't
that brings in
prove
Obama because again, Illinois
Chicago.
got it,
Yep.
nailed
That's
it,
right.
guys.
That's right.
Close
Yeah,
the
and
case.
You heard it here first, ladies and
And
gentlemen.
his sister worked in the Obama administration.
Um,
All right, here's what we're going to do. We've got the power of 45,000 people right now. Ladies and gentlemen, a name with 15 characters, okay?
Go.
So it's 16 total characters, but we assume there's a space there because I doubt whoever they're naming goes like a single name because usually single names are small, like Bono. But we've got, so someone who's got a name with 15 characters, and I know between the 45,000 people, someone can figure it out or at least make some good guesses. So
Crowdsourcing.
good luck. Crowdsourcing. Prominent, high-profile individual. Here's what we're thinking. Someone who has the ability to get a FOIA request release redacted still. This potentially could be one of the does that has requested. So let's take a look at who are the remaining people that have got a stay on their names being released. It could be that the name was not released because they've got an appeal. But then we're going to know which doe, John Doe or Jane Doe, it is who's getting that delay.
is it possible that they're redacting the name because that person is cooperating with whatever investigation?
But isn't the investigation kind of mostly over?
I don't know. I thought it was never happened.
Yeah.
No. Wait. This is not an investigation. This was a civil lawsuit for defamation. It never actually went anywhere. It was settled out of court. The documents get released, and now people are speculating as to the criminal elements that may be involved in this. So my first speculation is I would say this in starting the investigation. The assumption I would make is something related to national security, allowing the name to remain redacted. So we're thinking law enforcement, politics, like law enforcement, intelligence agencies. It could be, however, also related to those who requested an extension on having their name remain redacted. So here's the important thing. The people who said that there's the Jane Doe 107 saying, don't release my name because I live in a conservative country and it'll be bad news for me. These are accusations of child trafficking.
Yeah.
Who could get their name redacted and Prince Andrew couldn't? Prince Andrew could not get his name withheld from this, but this person could.
But didn't his family excommunicated him?
Sure, but still.
That's what I'm saying. Before all this happened, they excommunicated him. That's why they were able to release his name like that.
Am I wrong in thinking that he already faced a lawsuit in England about it? So in some ways, like his connection to this,
that's why they like
already been established. Or someone else did the allegation. You were right about the Pritzkers, by the way. JB Pritzker's related to the Hyatt family.
Yeah, the only reason I knew about that is when that Harvard thing, and then apparently the sister is in the board.
Yeah,
and I was like, when I started like trying to like find out who's connected to who, a lot of them are like Democratic donors. And
Harvey Weinstein fits. People are pointing that out. But I don't.
Why would he be redacted?
Exactly. He would not be. Of all the people, he's the least likely to be redacted. So that's why I'm thinking like.
But I'm loving
think
the
of like former FBI, CIA guys that worked in the Clinton administration or Obama administration, even Bush administration. Bush had a bunch of Democrats.
So I mean, theoretically, that would be military then, right? There are a couple different military like secret or heads of military organizations that have carried over through several administrations.
Yeah. But no, I was just thinking about it. Like, think of like the guys who worked in the CIA, worked in the heads of the CIA, FBI, to be like national security.
Let's jump to the next portion of this story. I love this headline from Fox News. Jeffrey Epstein documents name A-list celebrities.
Hate this.
A little clickbait.
Breaking news.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, because it is factually true and it's relatively vague. But I got to be honest. I don't know how you would actually title this story while trying to provide the context that they're not potentially wrongdoers.
TMZ just listed like names and then just said no wrongdoing. It just listed in the headline that there was no wrongdoing found.
And then the crone underneath, it was like, they had no wrongdoing. It's just all hearsay.
No, they put it right in the headline. In the main headline on the website, it listed it almost like a lot of people would say, depending on what your opinion on the media is, like, oh, they're just covering up for them. Because my favorite thing to always point out is like, whenever they talk about Epstein, like there's like several documentaries on Epstein that are all on like Hulu and all these things. And they all have pictures of him and Trump on there because the media hates Trump and they want to tar him with the
TMZ is like, these people are bread and butter. You cannot disperse their good name. We need them to create our beautiful content. I mean, the Fox story is I agree with Tim. It can be really hard to headline because like you're trying to get it out quickly. You know, a long headline is wordy. On the other hand, it was annoying scrolling through this article because they'd be like, yes, somebody asked if you had ever met George Lucas from Star Wars, and she
Right.
was like, no, and so that's the mention or something.
Exactly.
The only
George
thing I'm
Lucas
just
is on the
shocked
list.
about this whole thing is that there's no bank executives named.
But the
So
thing
like
is-
Wall Street is like clean from all this. So it's only like you know.
no, I mean, this is just who they asked about in the deposition.
Yeah, that's
for
what I'm
things
saying.
that we
Like,
have
there's not one
from the
single
things that
Wall
we
Street-
have
This is not.
Right.
These are not the Epstein client files.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying like, I mean, there obviously would be part of it. Well-known like Wall Street executives. That's what I'm.
I would say these documents don't get anywhere near the majority of the clients that we want to see exposed, because this was part of a defamation lawsuit. A lot of these documents that are being released are related to the original investigation into Epstein that were used as evidence in the defamation trial. That's my understanding. Could be wrong. I think that's what's being reported. We'll be very, very, very careful here, because you got a lot of people whose names are getting wrapped up in
for
this
that
stuff.
deposition was Palm Beach who did the investigation, right?
I don't know. Was it?
Yeah, that's I remember. Like Palm Beach did like this thorough investigation, and then that's what only it didn't lead to any state or federal charges. Only it led to that civil. That's almost like there's so many missing pieces to everything going on in this.
I love how that. Okay, so let's go through the list. They say Naomi Campbell is named, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Blanchett, Bruce Willis, and Cameron Diaz, George Lucas, Michael Jackson, Kevin Spacey. Okay, now that last one. All right, now the last one, okay, but the other ones, I don't know.
Did you watch his thing with Tucker?
Oh yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. The Kevin Spacey.
I'm just mad
Tucker
he
Carlson.
ruined House of
Okay.
Cards. It was so good, and then the last season just sucked.
Technically, he didn't ruin the show.
No, but
his,
whatever
his
happened-
his
Yeah.
bad life choices are what ruined the show.
And this one, the
okay.
show was so good.
But
He's
Yeah.
got to win an
does
award
Epstein-
for when he was accused of all this wrongdoing. He should win an award for his response, where they're just like, Kevin Spacey, you've been accused of rape on several instances. And he goes, I'm gay.
I am a gay man. I'm choosing to
it.
live my life this way.
And
I
then
thought that
to
was
rel-
incredible. But also, he doesn't. He's not interested in the flavors that Epstein seems to be offering, right? So I don't know that this is actually. He is not a good person necessarily, but I don't know that he's actually someone we'd expect to see on the list at all.
There are a lot of people who are accusing him that have mysteriously died in the last several years. 4 or 5 have passed away before being able to take him to court. But he was acquitted twice in the UK and more. But that video with Tucker Carlson, I was like, we were watching, we're like, who is this for? Like, I legitimately can't figure out who it's for. It almost looks fake. Like if you watch the video full screen on a larger TV, it almost doesn't look real, and it feels like this
like, what do you
weird,
mean?
like it almost looks green screen in a way.
Like he green screen Tucker Carlson in, or Tucker
No, like
Carlson?
like they added him in there, and he doesn't. And like he makes these great allusions to House of Cards in the show, and he talks about pushing journalists in a certain direction, which is a very clear push to the end of season 1. It was just it was rough, but it was really weird to watch, because I'm like, who is he? Tucker Carlson's wearing like acid wash jeans. I'm like, is this?
That's
So
not
you're trying to say this is an AI generated video?
I don't think it is, but there was just.
Well, and if it was, surely Tucker's team would have spoken out.
Yeah. Like he's wearing acid wash jeans in there though.
Maybe he's just trying to explore his sense of fashion, though.
But no, because in the thing, like Kevin Spacey, like basically alludes to, he's like, do you ever watch Netflix anymore? He says that to Spacey, goes, probably as much as you watch Fox these days.
I do want to say,
I mean,
I am fascinated that of all the names that are in there, Jimmy Kimmel is not. And
I'm so sad.
But the reason is not because I think, I want to outright. I'm not accusing Jimmy Kimmel of doing anything wrong. It's that he was actually business partners with Epstein's chef. And so when Aaron Rodgers said, Jimmy Kimmel must be worried about this, and then Jimmy Kimmel threatened to sue him, I was like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
yeah, like what do you have to hide?
It's not that. It's what Roger said was completely reasonable.
Yeah.
This guy worked with, what was the guy, Chef Perry Lang or whatever the guy's name was? He was Epstein's personal chef. And my understanding is there was a report that said that they were co-owners of a restaurant, or that Jimmy Kimmel was in some way involved. There's videos of them. They're friends.
Yeah.
So if Jimmy Kimmel appeared in this document, I would not be surprised. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. All these celebrities that are being named, 99% of them, there's no accusation of wrongdoing. They just asked them, did you ever see Bruce Willis there? No.
Yeah, but just the way how he
Well, and anyone who's named, I'm sure, does not actually want their name to come up in this, even if it's completely innocuous.
Yep.
That's
it
the
would
problem,
be nicer
right?
to not be involved at all.
But
Yeah. Go
just look at his reaction. Like he was like, if you keep mentioning my name, I'm going to sue. It was just like, why you're getting so jumpy about this?
The average but the thing is, though, is we're pointing out the fact that when you read these documents, a lot of these people aren't accused of wrongdoing. Just putting your name and Epstein's name next to each other now is enough to tarnish you. So it doesn't matter if they're not being accused of wrongdoing just by being associated with.
Yeah, but the
feel
media's
like
going to cover you up because they have trouble.
But so you feel like Kimmel's fear was somewhat reasonable.
I think if you're not doing anything wrong and your name comes up in something like this, then it's probably a pretty reasonable response to be like, I don't want to be attached to this at all.
And there's no legal recourse, right?
Yeah,
it's
nothing
like
you do.
it's not like you can sue the documents for life. Like there's kind of nothing you can do about it.
You feel like it's like there's a lot of like ghoulishness to all of this. Like people were talking about how all of these names coming out has been like album drops for like it's been made light of so much that it's kind of hard to when you have to read what's actually happening here to reacquaint yourself with just how horrific so much of this stuff is.
And if we were to get a client list, in some ways, would people be like, but we already kind of got this weird list that sort of meant nothing? Is in some ways this weird drip of information actually making people less interested in what was going on? The fact that there were people, who potentially were promoting human trafficking and using their wealth and status to get terrible things.
So we were talking just a moment ago about there's this this list of names, and one of them's redacted. We think it's probably a name with 15 characters, including a space, giving a total of 16 characters. And somehow this name got redacted. I'm loving all the speculation. Some people are saying like Harvey Weinstein fits, sure, but of all the names to be redacted, his would be the last.
Yeah.
Because he's locked up, or I don't know, is he still in jail? He's still in jail.
Yep.
And but someone just super chatted Stephen Colbert, and I'm just like, okay, well, I really do appreciate the hatred we have for the corporate press. I don't think Stephen Colbert has the national security level to keep that redaction.
It's a lot of clout for Stephen Colbert.
A lot of clout for Stephen Colbert, considering like billionaires and millionaires and even Prince Andrew couldn't keep their names out of it. That's why I'm assuming national security. But good guesses, but it's all highly speculative. I mean, we got no idea.
I mean, really, the best way to do it would be if you had, somehow compiled a list of people who have been known to have flown on the airplane. And then you go through and you count the characters. Because otherwise, like, I could just shout out names for the rest of forever and probably wouldn't necessarily hold you. It has to come from a list of people that were already known or rumored to have ties to Epstein. And I don't know necessarily that Stephen Colbert was.
There's a lot of names that fit. And it's kind of crazy because the chats lighten up and they're saying a bunch of names. And I'm like, these names all fit.
I just wonder at the end of all these document drops, at the end of it, we're just going to come out and be like, at the end, what is this? Everybody's just going to be speculating. Is just anything's ever going to come out of all of this? The way how they're just dropping this, like
nothing changes.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I do not believe that we are in a period where we can say nothing changes because everything has changed.
Yeah,
for the first time in U.S. history, the former president's been indicted. And it's not just an indictment. I mean, they're coming after him in ways.
They're trying to keep him off the ballot.
Keeping him off the ballot it's soft war.
Yeah.
It is shutting down the election.
The side that's doing that to him is the side that's on the list. So they're going to prevent anything from changing because they're not the ones that if Trump's name was on the list, then yeah, sure.
No, but this is the point. They've never been threatened before. And now these people on the list are doing things that have never been done. It's changed. Something happened in this country that has put these people in fear for their lives.
Social media and the generation is waking up.
Or yes, perhaps that's what leads to a Donald Trump election in 2016 they never thought possible.
Yeah.
And I do believe there's a strong possibility that should Donald Trump get elected, the names that get released in this go to jail. I do believe that's possible. I'm not saying it's probable. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm saying I would not be surprised. Look, there's that clip going viral right now where Donald Trump was asked about Bill Clinton and he goes, nice guy, but he's got a lot of stuff coming up with that Epstein, and everyone's like, what did Trump know about this? Mm-hmm. What happens if Donald Trump says, I am your retribution? This guy's pissed. There's a possibility, maybe it's 0.1%. I don't know. He gets elected and the first thing he does is he says, I want to know everybody who worked with Epstein and we're going to lock them all up.
Well, he has to get the FBI guys to do it.
Well, I think part of it is that would be one of the only ways to restore public trust. I think that if an average American, with everything that happened with Hunter Biden this year and him get his plea deals and this very obvious two-tier justice system, I think if Trump were elected, actually seeing someone who is on Epstein's list, a known associate who partook in all of this stuff, being sent to prison is actually the only way to get the American people to think maybe there is a reason to trust people in power.
We have a good answer. Someone said, this is Barrett1313, it's Alan Dershowitz. And the reason why his name was redacted is because Giuffre recanted her accusations against him in 2022. So that could but you know what? I got to push back on that. His name is all over these documents.
Right.
All over them with accusations of raping children. So that being the case, I don't think this one time they redact his name.
Does William Burns fit? He's a
No.
Okay, he was CIA.
He's CIA right now.
Yeah, but he's like theoretically someone who flew on one of Epstein's planes.
Oh, interesting.
So
No, that's too short.
too short.
But look, no, even if I'm learning something amazing, there are a lot of people in government who have 15 character names because people are posting all this stuff. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good point. Like, there's too many of them.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you pick.
Talking about the Hunter Biden, did you see the reports from the Democrats, from the Democrat oversight? They released a report talking about like Donald Trump obtained like $7.8 million from foreign governments because they all stood in his hotels when he was president. So they're trying to say that was form of collusion, that what the Republicans are doing and attacking Hunter Biden, Donald Trump did as president. And nobody's really talking about it except for like if you watch it in the MSNBC. But they're trying to really make this as now the biggest deal ever. It was Jamie Raskin. He's doing this. It started today. But because of everything with the Epstein, everybody was really into this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try to turn the tables and use that report against Trump as another way. They're trying to throw everything to make it stick at him.
And they were already doing that when he was in office, though.
Right,
They tried to argue repeatedly that he was making money off of
Yo.
Yeah, but they now
Hold
just
on.
released a
Got it.
150 page.
Someone said, ask Grok. This is Joshua Park. Ask Grok for powerful people with 15 letter names. So I went to Grok and I said, give me a list of politicians who have 15 characters between their first and last name. Ladies and gentlemen, this list is damning.
Okay.
You ready
Is
for this
this
one?
American or foreign as well?
Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington, John Adams. No, wait, hold on.
Active.
None of these people have 15 characters in their
Yeah, I
names.
know.
Oh, so Grok is covering up for Epstein.
I knew it.
I knew this was corrupt.
I knew Musk was
Straight
too
to
good
the
to be
top.
true.
It goes
Very wrong.
straight to the top.
Free speech, my ass over there.
Oh, that's
It's
crazy.
becoming a foreign concept nowadays.
I mean, I think part of like, first off, I feel like this is the new version of Wordle, and I'm really expecting it to like vibrate and be like, you got some of the letters right.
If
Just
one of these,
rearrange them.
if like they should do a crossword puzzle in the New York Times and actually include this in there. Who is the?
I'm sure Bill Clinton said, "Don't."
I wouldn't be surprised.
Bill Clinton has already marched in and been like, "Do not dare."
Don't you dare.
That would be so fun.
Wasn't there a case where like he wanted delegates to stay at Mar-a-Lago and host an event there, and they made him not do it? Trump during it when he was in office. What was that for? Do you remember that?
I don't know deals. I mean, there was also a report I saw a long time ago that Joe Biden had personally hosted like diplomats in his home in Delaware, but then I had a really hard time tracking that down. I think that there are probably reasons people ask for things like that, but you know, it's very easy to be like, no, Mr. President, that is a violation of whatever. And he's like, okay, they can't see my golf course. I mean, like there were all kinds of things. Like there was a reason that Trump put his sons in charge of the business and left off. You know what I mean? Like, I think you did as much as you could to mitigate potentially having conflict in that case. The thing about Hunter Biden is that the more that comes out about his case, the more obvious it is through his emails and everything that he was specifically saying, I am the son of an influential American politician, and
Give me my money.
If you do what if I get benefits, you get benefits.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence that anyone in the Trump organization has done that.
Yeah, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say like he didn't recuse himself, which he actually did. I remember that press conference right before during his the transition, and they're trying to say like he didn't recuse himself. His name was still under the Trump organization. They were trying to still.
I mean, his name was still literally
that's what I'm
Trump.
saying.
And to a certain extent, yes, of course, that name gained even more prominence than it already had. But on the other hand, you know, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert on his business dealings, it's not like he was like, I am President Trump. Now, Eric, go tell everyone in Ireland that I'll open a golf course there and because I'm the president. Like, it wasn't that way. That's very different.
They act like the Trump Hotel was created in 2015.
It's not like he was doing this, you know, for decades beforehand.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange. But, you know, I obviously think it's important to hold politicians, their families accountable. I mean, this is what's interesting about all of the legislation that's getting pushed in Congress right now, saying we should be really wary of the stock trades being made by politicians.
I'm sorry.
God.
Grok is so stupid.
Yeah.
I asked it for a list of politicians with 15 characters in their names, and it gave me a list of just 50. First, it gave me like James
So
Madison.
it gave you the first 15 people.
So then I said, give me a list of politicians alive today, and it gave me a list of random politicians, and I said, none of those people have 15 letters in their names, and it goes, oh, I'm sorry, that list didn't actually adhere to what you had asked. And then it went, I said, so make a list with 15 letters, And let me see if I can pull back up. I closed it.
It's 15 characters, right? Because obviously there's going to be
15
space
letters.
in it.
And
How many
then,
letters is
and then it
Pritzker?
said apples, bananas, cherries, dates, elderberries, figs, grapes, honeydew, iceberg. I just put. I'm like, okay, this thing's an idiot.
It's having a bad
Those
day.
are like code names.
It's on regular mode. It's not on fun mode.
Should we ask, what's the other one? Gemini?
Chat GPT.
Chat GPT?
No, let's jump to this next story here while we discuss the darkness that is happening in this country. We do have good news. It's from Newsweek.com. Joe Biden campaign volunteers are quitting in droves. Take a look at this.
Because of what's
A
going
group
on.
of staffers working on President Joe Biden's re-election campaign warned the president that his volunteers are quitting in droves over his handling of Israel's military response in the Gaza Strip. Biden has faced immense pressure from members of his own party over the U.S. policies in light of the surprise Hamas attack on October 7th. You know, look, we have a lot of people come on the show who are Jewish. That may be surprising to for many people who watch to know.
Well, other people think it's too many people who are Jewish.
Well,
Can't
we
win
have.
that.
You
I
get
think
criticized both
I think
ways.
we have 10 times the national average of Jewish people, of guests who are Jewish. So, someone did a thing. It was like it was 21% of our guests are Jewish or something, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably because they're Abrahamic conservatives. I don't know, whatever, and they're prominent social media personalities or whatever. But I literally don't care. However, we talk to a lot of these people, and it's really fascinating to hear what they'll say behind the scenes about their family members. They'll say on the show, a lot of progressive Jewish individuals are waking up to what the left is and what Democrats are doing because of the attack on Israel. Behind the scenes, they'll say the same thing, but be a bit more specific because they don't want to put their families at risk. I can respect that. And they'll say like, I got an aunt, she's liberal, and she came freaking out like, what's going on? And I'm like, I told you. I'm just imagining all of the Hanukkah dinners where you had these liberal Jewish people meeting with their conservative relatives, and the conservatives are like, we told you this was going on, and you didn't believe us, and now they do. And now you take a look what's going on with Joe Biden's campaign. This split is insane. Joe Biden is losing staff members because he won't support Hamas.
But who are they? They're not staff members. I mean, they might be paid, but they're saying
volunteers.
volunteers, which probably
Sorry, volunteers.
which
You
is
mean volunteers.
probably people who are volunteering in their early 20s, mid 20s, maybe up until early 30s, and that group of progressive liberal people tend to be very
Not even
anti-Israel.
liberal, leftists.
Leftists
Yes,
is a good word.
leftists.
And so it's interesting because it's actually a huge age divide. That's what I think the Democratic Party is starting to realize, that the older members, basically the boomer Democrats, have a very different position on this international issue than their younger cohorts.
That's why
and
you
so
see
instead
it-
of it being like, yes, come
So
take this position, volunteer.
A third batch may have just dropped right now within the past few minutes.
That's why you see such an outsized influence of that discussion on social media now. Why, when you look at comment sections on
and-
Instagram, it's all free Palestine
and TikTok, right? This is what we heard
yeah.
reported over and over again, that the mainstream media might be presenting a more pro-Israel presentation, but TikTok was predominantly pro-Palestine.
Those Gen Zers do love Osama bin Laden.
What a
But it was
who
actually
could've
the
predicted
media.
that on 2023.
But it was actually the media that blew that up, that story. Because, like, it was only, like, a few people who had... It was, like, TikTok, it was, like, only, like, few million. And then the media talked about it, and next thing you know, it blew up to, like, billions of views.
Yeah, it's I mean, a few million is still a lot to me.
Yeah, I know.
To me,
but compared to
yeah.
TikTok views, that's, like,
The
nothing.
like right now you're seeing a live feed. We've had however many decades of colleges that have told you that the place that you were born from is evil and that your ancestry is evil, and all of those things that your progressive and leftist professors have indoctrinated into the previous generations is finally coming to pass as the new generation hits all of these problems in society right now. There's no love of old Americana or what this country used to be. There's no sense of identity here anymore. And all they're left with is a deep burning hatred for this country.
Yeah.
And a lot of its allies.
It's not surprising that Joe Biden is losing his young volunteers. And I'm presuming they're young. I haven't read all of this.
I guarantee you they're on the younger
The
side.
same way that Harvard is losing its older billionaire donors who are saying the things that you're teaching the students, the positions the students are taking are incongruous with my views, and I no longer want to support you financially. The thing that young people have to offer any sort of influential campaign is their time and their energy. It's not the billionaire donor that's out knocking on doors, although they contribute in a different way. Their financial contribution means a lot to Harvard, but political campaigns need the young people.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it's good, right?
when
It's not that I like conflict. It's that I like this party having to reckon with itself, that it is saying one thing. Like, it bothers me a lot that people always like, the Republican Party is about to fall apart and it's crazy. And in my position, I think conservative movements have lots of different parts that occasionally make basically become allies at times on certain issues. Whereas Democrats tend to be very lockstep, you believe these things, but they no longer realize that they are the party that is preaching things that the older leadership doesn't believe in. It's interesting to see them fall apart in front of our eyes.
Well, we saw that starting with when AOC got elected and when a lot of these younger progressives got elected, right? That there was great divides, but she kind of ended up being more of she fell along party lines on a lot of issues eventually.
The fact that she voted for the Ukraine aid, you're supposed to be a progressive.
Yeah.
Like at least Thomas Massey didn't even vote for that.
Yeah,
Stick to your values.
But Massey's really interesting because he's ultimately principled. He has certain things that he believes in and he will not back down.
But that's when I think you lost the progressives right there. The minute they said yes to this and they said that we're never going to fund any war, no matter how strong their allies are or how fake our allies are with them, we're not supposed to be funding this wars. We have to be we have to fund healthcare. We have to fund this. And then all of a sudden you started seeing like they voted no problems. They didn't even like use that as a bargaining chip like they did with the Build Back Better. Like they were using that over Nancy Pelosi's head. That's why it was never been able to pass. And then it took a while that it like had to come back and then Joe Manchin got involved and all that. So the fact that they didn't use that over the Nancy Pelosi's head, that was really telling about the progressives. So I think now they're using this to like bring back the power they once had. But then it comes to the fact that like, what is your principle? Are you for the war? Or are you against the war? Like, what are you exactly for? Like, it's a lot of...
I think you look at a story like this, and the year has only just begun. And I see two things from this. The first is, we are winning by a lot. With the purchase of X, the boycott of these big companies, the organizational power of the anti-establishment and the pro-constitutional republic faction is tremendous, and seeing more and more victories every single day. And then you see that Joe Biden's volunteers are quitting over an ideological split. The Democrats are fractured. They're falling apart. We've already gone through years of the viral story, Democrat quits party. How many times did we see a story like that? Remember when they were calling into CNN being like, I am quitting. I will never vote Democrat again.
War?
No, this was like a year.
No, but I'm saying like every time there's a war going on, they always say, I'm going to quit the Democratic Party. Do they really do?
And they do. And so in the past few years, you had that viral story where they were calling into C-SPAN complaining about what Joe Biden had been doing, it was crazy. Yeah. And it goes viral. We get more and more of that. Now we've got, every couple of months, a Democrat quits and switches to the Republican Party. Now Joe Biden can't even keep volunteers on because they're far left extremists. It's kind of fascinating if you think about it, because a lot of this is fueled by foreign interference using social media manipulation. And I love how the left claimed that for so long over Trump. But the reality is it's targeting them. They always project. You get these apps that are advocating for Hamas, and then these young people become pro-Hamas, and then all of a sudden they quit Joe Biden's campaign, creating a direct probability of Americans uniting around actual American values. So if all of these young people are being subverted into supporting things like Hamas, but it's not the majority, all that will happen is these people who have no political power, America will prevail, the constitutional republic will prevail, Donald Trump will get elected.
But are they really going back, are they really supporting Hamas, or are they really trying to support the Palestinian cause, like the Palestinian people? So are there
yes,
Hamas?
Yeah, look, we can sit here and talk about all the people who are pro-Palestine. I am specifically referring to people who are pro-Hamas.
Why?
Why am I referring to them? Because they in New York were marching around chanting and for Hamas and calling them heroes.
Oh, well. Okay, I get what your point, but I'm
when
saying
they had rallies in New York, over
you talk
what
about
happened,
the rallies, or you talk about people who are
when they had rallies in New York and several hundred people show up, the speakers at these events would get up and say the freedom fighters fired 5,000 rockets landing in Tel Aviv, and they all clap and cheer and scream. So those are pro-Hamas protesters in New York City.
Okay.
Sure, if you want to argue that there is an individual on social media who doesn't like Hamas and they're pro-Palestine, I know many of them. I'm not talking about them. Okay. You're allowed to be pro-Palestine. But the problem is most of these people are calling Hamas freedom fighters.
Okay.
That's why they're mad.
Mm-hmm. And the idea is that it will uniquely leach votes from the Democrats, assuming that they don't end up just falling in line when the next election comes, because a lot of them do, right? Like, as much as they hate it, they end up falling in line, vote blue no matter who. Doesn't really matter.
But it's really
telling, at least.
Yeah,
that used to be
the hope would be that
but...
they're so ideologically inclined that for once they won't just end up voting on party lines because they actually have a problem with they actually do support Hamas.
But did you see the recent USA Today poll? They said young voters, younger than me, younger than 35, Trump leads by about 2 or 3 points.
Yep.
And that's really shocking.
It's like a third or fourth poll.
I always thought that between 20 and 30s, you're going to vote blue because you're like so lost. Until you start paying taxes and you're like, holy crap, I got to vote Republican because I cannot anymore, like the Democrat Party. So you're wondering, like, these Gen Zs, like a lot of them are crazy, but a lot of them are actually waking up.
Yeah, I think they're very divided. I think that you'll have, there'll be an extreme generation where some people sit very far at one end of the political and ideological spectrum, and some people end up sitting, unfortunately, extreme far on the other side. And so I think that it's sort of like when you talk about the economy and you have the disappearing middle class. I think there is the disappearing moderate class of Gen Zs. And, the question would be, are they able to reconcile, or do they ultimately meet on the other end of the political horseshoe, and their norms that we would view as extreme, the things that they agree on are out of the box. We're not going to expect them.
Yeah.
Also, be very, very careful of any polls that are conducted this early in the election season.
No, but it's telling. I always think of it as like a quiz.
But also, like, be very careful, because what happens a lot of time is if they start projecting that Trump is super far ahead, then people get complacent and they think, I don't have to go out and vote, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So don't lose, if depending on what your thoughts on voting are, if you're really, really pro-Trump, whatever it is, don't allow that to make you complacent, because I do think a lot of times they end up doing that.
I mean, theoretically, it would, I wish, I don't think this is the case, it would fuel a sort of down ticket sprint where people are saying, well, I know exactly who I want to vote for, even if he's ahead. Who else do I care about? Who do I care about on the state level? Who do I care about representing me in the Senate and Congress? Who is my governor? Because we feel like you've locked up one office, that shouldn't be enough. I don't think this is actually how voters operate. This is my idealistic worldview, that if you feel like, well, I definitely know who's going to be president, you want to send them into their term with strong support, both in Congress and in the states. We'll see. But
going back what you said, like you said, be careful. But maybe you never know. Maybe they're using to say they want to vote for Trump so they could get rid of Biden and put somebody like Gavin Newsom, a younger Democrat. You never know. Yeah. That could be telling. That's why I say I always think of these polls as quiz. And then then when you start going into all these votings, I think of it like all the delegates are like the midterms, like when you take a test in college. Mm-hmm. And then so the general election, that's your final. That's how I see it. So when people are like writing off the polls, I'm like, no, gotta be careful. These polls are telling. Also,
was that done nationwide? Was that done?
No, the USA Today was nationwide.
It was nationwide. Okay.
But it was telling like Joe Biden's losing support by blacks by 25 points from like 2020. Mm-hmm. He's losing Hispanics. Trump is leading with Hispanics, young voters,
and Trump's gaining and all.
And he's gaining. So like Biden went from like 80 to 60.
But do you think that's people who would, part of it is what I'm curious to see is if there's a large number of voters who sit out this election. Like, what is voter turnout actually going to look like?
I think the young ones are, if it's going to be Biden. So I'm thinking, that's what I'm saying.
Because just because they're not voting for Biden doesn't mean that they're nationally gained by Trump.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Remember, a lot of people sat out 2016 because they said, like, I don't like Trump or Hillary. I'm just sitting this one out.
But the same thing in 2020. Yeah. They sat out too. Yeah. But I'm saying...
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. That's what I'm saying. These polls can be telling as a way of like trying to push Biden out.
Donald Trump is, in swing states, winning amongst people who did not vote in 2020 by double-digit margins, some up to 40%.
That's what I'm saying. Like, these polls could be telling.
I think it's Michigan.
To push him out.
In Michigan, they poll people who did not vote in 2020, and Trump has a 40% lead. So he's like, it's like 60, 30 or something.
And the whole thing, going back to the Hamas war, like...
Probably 60-20.
The Israel war, like, Trump is leading with the Arab American votes. And like the Republican Party cannot take that for granted. They have to understand both sides of it. It cannot be all 100% pro-Israel.
I think the Republican Party is much more tolerant of different views. I think the Democrats are way more at each other's throat.
Trump is very for both sides. But you see, look at the debate stage, they're both like between DeSantis and Haley, they're both groveling between trying to get like the Israeli and the AIPAC endorsements. They're more worried about that than they're worried about the American people.
But that's because they're so far behind in the polls. I mean, it almost doesn't matter what they're trying to do, because ultimately the popular vote indicates that they support Trump, and Trump is taking a position that is attempting to be moderate, which also Joe Biden has attempted to be moderate on the issue, and it's failed because people don't trust him.
But I'm saying, if the first time ever this poll has ever with the Arab American community and Trump is leading, and remember, they try to push that whole Muslim ban and they try to like everything with Trump. The fact that he's the Muslim ban.
What was that?
The whole they were trying to if you look going back to Michigan, that's a heavily populated area of Arabs, and Trump is leading in And that's what
Dearborn. But what Muslim ban?
The Muslim ban. They try to push that against they try to
Who tried to push it?
They're trying to the media. Remember the first thing.
You're saying the media was lying about Trump, claiming he wanted a Muslim ban. Right.
So that's the one thing when it comes to Arabs and Muslims, that's the one thing they just don't like about Trump. But they love everything about his economic policies and stuff like that. But when it came to Israel, even though Trump was very pro-Israel, he did have an understanding of working. The first country he visited diplomatic was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So
Abraham Accords.
Yeah, and he worked on that.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that the Republican Party is taking for granted and they're only picking one side and they're groveling, and then you're saying they're behind the polls. Look at DeSantis. He's bashing.
I just think that Republicans take a third side, which is to say that they don't really want to have an interventionist position at all. There are a lot of Republicans.
But they sound like Bush in the debate stage. They sound like Bush Jr. or Dick Cheney with 3-inch heels and lipstick. So it just reminds me the Republican Party and even the RNC, they have no F's given about the minority and the colored people who are choosing to be Republicans, because they only want to pick the side that they're used to, the whole establishment. Maybe. That's what I'm saying. We have to be careful with this, the polls are telling, but Republicans, they're very known for fucking shit up. I always say that.
This is again why I think it's interesting that there are so many Republicans right now who, theoretically they could be divided. They could say, I support this side of that war, I support this side of the war. But there are a fair number of them who are the thing is, our focus has to be domestic. Our focus has to be on what's going home. And I don't really hear a similar echo in the Democratic Party. It might be there and just might not be as loud. But Republicans have another position to take that is not available to Democratic politicians right now. Democratic politicians have to pick a side. That's what their voters want. Whereas if you're a Republican voter and maybe you feel real strongly about one side, maybe you feel strongly about the other, if you have a Republican saying, well, obviously this is a big conflict, there's a lot going on there, but my priority is to secure our border.
Yeah, but there's this we need to fund Israel, we need to make sure we need to eliminate them, this is border combat, and then you have DeSantis insulting Arabs, which is now you're triggering me, and you're losing people's respect. And he shouldn't be talking talk about Arabs wearing man dresses. I wouldn't be talking when you're wearing 3-inch heels, boy, and you're down in the polls by 55 points.
Yeah.
So, and you're trying to catch up with a girl.
Do you think
who's an Alibaba version of Hillary Clinton?
But do you think for minority voters that are joining the Republican Party or who are likely to support a Republican candidate this time, do you think they are looking for candidates who support a certain side of the war, or would an America First position appeal to?
It has to be America First agenda.
That's the only
reason why they want to come to this country.
He also does need to bring up the Abraham Accords a lot, I think a good amount, because the people who are voting America First are going to be all in on your domestic policy if you're putting, if it's talking about closing the border and shoring up things there, right? Sure. But right now, with international conflict being such a big part of the story, pushing them to see that there was a time not that long ago when we did have a more stable, worldview for,
But we have the Republican parties on the stage pushing to fund a country that has a budget surplus when we're running a budget deficit. And we can't even keep up. We just hit 34 trillion. We just hit 34 trillion yesterday. And we're growing. Everybody here owes $105,000 in debt for what? I didn't pay for that for college. I didn't own that for my mortgage. But I got to pay that for some war.
So Israel's got a budget surplus?
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
Their budget surplus, their GDP is about 4% a year. And we're funding their military. We fund 3.8 billion a year. They run a budget surplus.
And between two wars right now, the American people,
for the first time in 35 years, as of January of 2023, Israel posts a budget surplus driven by higher tax revenue. So what are they looking at? They're like a budget surplus of $2.85 billion. How much do we give them?
3.8.
So they actually... They could cover a good portion of that at this point.
Yeah. But we want to get the 14 billion. And right now we have no money.
They're you can pay a little bit more of taxes, can't you? You can go ahead and
we're going to have to pay taxes. We can't.
No,
we're not going to be able to save the Trump taxes.
The American politicians have no problem bleeding us dry, right? So they don't have a problem with that. And that's an issue right now.
The fact that they want to tie to the border, border tied to border security.
Yeah.
And I'm sick and tired of these Republicans running and trekking down to the southern border. Check your ass back to the Capitol right now and get something done. The border is out of control.
Well, let's talk about this. We have a tweet from Elon Musk. He says, at this point, there is no question. that this administration is actively facilitating illegal immigration. The numbers speak for themselves. Let me just say that one more time. Elon Musk says Joe Biden is facilitating illegal immigration. Let me one up that for you, Elon. The Biden administration is actively colluding with human traffickers. That's a fact. They've been doing it for years. There's multiple news reports loading children. They're smuggling children. They're trafficking children on planes in the dead of night. There's videos of this. And you can look at all the statements from politicians. It's been a story for 5 years now. Take a look at this graph. By all available metrics, this administration's border policy is a disaster. Take a look at this. Under Trump, there was a major spike in encounters. And we know this because that's when we got the caravans. Trump went nuts. Then we see a massive decline to the lowest level we've seen in a long time because Trump said, we're going to shut this down. As soon as Joe Biden's elected, he opened the doors. Just take a look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. We have unprecedented illegal immigration. And right now, the Biden administration is suing Texas, attempting to do everything in their power to stop the border states from putting an end to the invasion, the incursion of 10,000 plus people per day at the southern border. This is sedition against the United States. It is a direct violation of the Constitution. And I will say this, I've said it several times. The only reason it happens is because there are people in law enforcement who say to themselves, I know it's wrong, but I've got to feed my kids. That is the argument made by every corrupt individual who exemplifies evil. They cut a deal with the devil to save their families. And I totally understand why they would, because they want to make sure their kids have full bellies. And they took the deal with the devil, figuratively or literally, however you want to see it, to sell out and destroy this country for themselves, for their short-term gains. The only thing is, those kids will inherit a pile of embers because of what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting argument because if you work for, Customs Border Control, if you're working at a federal level, theoretically, Texas is really trying to do the opposite, right? Texas is trying to enforce border law. So you could maybe leave your job for a state level position and still get to work in your chosen field and also have a governor who is willing to back you. There are ways that, especially with the border, that you don't have to be necessarily supporting the Biden administration who is trying to undermine all immigration laws that are on the books.
I just got to get a little biblical with it. And I'll say this again. If you are an atheist, by all means, you're allowed to be. I'm not a Christian. Take this all as metaphor, take it figuratively. If you are religious, take it literally. When we had the guys from Angel Studios talking about the film The Shift, where the benefactor transports a guy to a reality without his family. And he says, I'll give you everything back. I'll give you everything you've ever dreamed of. Just serve me. And instead, the man begins to pray and refuses to serve what is figuratively the devil. And I believe they said it was effectively like the story of Job. And I'm not, it's been a really long time since I studied these stories, but no matter how bad things got, he would never just give in and take the assistance of the devil. So this is what I see, figuratively, literally, however you want to cut it. There are federal law enforcement agents that are actively working against the local residents and law enforcement of Texas to stop them from protecting their homes. And these people are doing it. And I would say full well, they know what they're doing is evil, but they're saying to themselves, yeah, but if I leave this job, my kids won't have food. Because we hear it all the time. It's true. Your kids won't have food. So as you're in service of darkness and evil and cutting that deal with the devil, I certainly understand why you did it. Not like anyone's going to forgive you, though.
No. I mean, I think especially with the border crisis as bad as it is, I wonder if Democrats look at themselves and say, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, even though that's a vote to continue human trafficking across the border, right? It's a vote to continue
drug
trafficking.
That issue they consider it last.
Yeah, do you think they think about
up until now,
Up
right?
until now.
They'll say all the time, human trafficking is bad and this is awful and whatever else, except when it's on their doorstep and they could theoretically do something about it. I mean, I can understand where if you've been told shutting the border makes you racist,
they don't think
why
of it as
they're
human
afraid of it. But that's what they should think of it as. Those are the real world consequences. A lot of Republicans talk about the drug trafficking across the border, which is obviously awful. It affects a lot of Americans. The opioid crisis is, just a complete assault on our nation. On the other hand, if that argument won't do, if you don't care what happens to Americans, why don't you care what happens to young children and women who are trafficked across the border? Like, at what point do you recognize that you are advocating for a international violation of any kind of human decency. And instead they're like, no, it's bad. We got to keep the border open. It's great. I mean, this is the thing. This is my favorite topic actually to talk about with people who are left leaning, because it's like, a lot of people who would vote Democrat are bleeding hearts, right? They believe that they're trying to help people.
I don't
and
think
if you're
that
able
they
to
think that
say
deeply.
these policies harm people, they are more likely to be open to them. I think the border is a crazy issue because there were so many Republicans who like would not talk about it. They were afraid to be called racist. They were afraid to do whatever. I mean, the Republican House, I think, or Congress wouldn't necessarily, they fought giving Trump funding for the border wall when he was in office because they were like, well, it's not that big of a priority.
The government shutdown for that.
Right. And look at us now. Like, this is a major issue. We are paying the prices. And in fact, we had a president that wanted to intercede earlier, who wanted to stop this. And even if you don't like Trump, right? Don't you care about human trafficking? Don't you care about neighbors in your communities dying of drug overdoses? Like, this is the big reckoning at the border, which is messaging around it was like, if you want to close it, you're racist. And the reality is actually it's a hugely compassionate issue to say we are not going to have this finish line at which point people are incentivized to send their families to people who want to traffic and harm them.
But are they getting that message? Because you have all these organizations that are saying like, they're screaming the racism.
Yeah.
So,
and there are a lot of organizations that are built around encouraging people to cross, like nonprofit organizations that are structured around encouraging
even
people
the
to cross
church,
the border. Right. And so why would you turn off that cash flow if the purpose of your nonprofit is to solve an issue like trying to get people to cross illegally?
Puts them out of business if they solve the problem.
Can you guess how much the cartels made in December alone with the record breaking of 300,000?
$2 billion
A day. I'm talking about
in a day.
a day.
How much do they
How much
make?
do they make?
$32 million a day from this.
It's also an issue of framing. Like, I think this has a lot to do with the echo chambers that most people who follow politics find themselves in. So you can frame that issue in that way, and it's accurate, but sharing the horrors of what's going on is not going to be how they receive that information. They're not going to get the information from somebody who's willing to share all the facts of what it actually means to go through a border crossing, right? Not the coyotes, not all of the drugs that come through. It's being framed to them, whether it's by MSNBC, CNN, any of these places, as a humanitarian issue that they have to be a bleeding heart on. So therefore, they don't get the full breadth of what's actually happening, which is why their views don't change.
They kind of
I'd love to
switched
see.
last month.
I got an idea. I got a really, really great idea. When these people come to the border and they demand asylum, what we do is we get them a very comfortable bus, really nice one. Like I'm talking like, you ever see those luxury buses that go from like New York to DC and they got recliner chairs? You know
about the Greyhound?
They're not Greyhounds are
Well, I
not
know.
comfortable, but they got these really nice ones. It's like super cheap, and then they got these big chairs up top, and you got this glass ceiling. Oh, this is really great. You can see everything. We'll
The
take all the
megabus.
yeah,
The
megabus.
megabus.
We'll put all the migrants on there, and we'll bring them to Native American reservations. And then when the left, advocates for immigration, we'll say absolutely, yeah, we'll send them to the Native American reservations.
Isn't that
What's wrong? Why are you upset? Why are you upset about
Aren't
it?
they like federally protected?
Sure. So here's the solution. The reservations are federally protected, federally recognized. Texas is upset about it, doesn't want people there. Here's a solution. The left thinks migration is a good thing. So who would complain if we send these immigrants to Native American reservations?
Well,
Everyone should be happy, right?
That's true. Well, this idiot mayor of mine, former idiot mayor of mine, because I don't live in New York City anymore, he's suing the Texas bus company. So I'm like, how much damage is that going to do?
I think the answer here is just for Abbott to send the migrants to Native American reservations and then ask the left why they're upset if they get mad about it. They should be very happy because migration's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm. If you like it so much, why don't you encourage it everywhere? It's weird, right? I mean,
We know what'll happen. The left will call him racist and start attacking him because
That's what they're doing.
if the migrants come to this country, it's a good thing. But you know that if a governor sent them to a Native American reservation, they'd say, how dare you? You're racist, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, look how fast they cleared out Martha's Vineyard, right?
Oh,
There's
man, that
some
was
places
hilarious.
that there are not. We don't like migrants going to certain places.
It's literal
And we will not explain
NIMBYism.
why.
The liberal banshee shrieking over the Martha's Vineyard thing was hilarious.
The most NIMBY of NIMBY that there is.
But they're more tolerant than
island.
you are.
Yes.
No, I think it's crazy. I mean, the other part that bothers me about this is like, where were you guys back in the day? I love that Republicans have gotten on board. I will be a little bit cynical right now and say this has been an issue that anyone could have spotted for a long time. And I just don't understand why people didn't embrace it sooner. I can never understand that.
And it was also something that at least back in the early 2010s and earlier that Democrats at least paid lip service to, right? They pretended to want to close the border.
Bill Clinton, in
Yes.
one of his State of the Union, was
And
like, let's close the border. It's important.
Obama
I don't know if he
mentioned
said it
it.
like that, but
Obama had like the
mentioned it, yeah.
most support chase here in any Democratic presidency in the last 30 years.
Deporter in chief, right? So it's not completely.
look at his immigration rate.
That's like this is like Biden's biggest accomplishment. It's not the economy or not the stock market that recuperated all 2022's losses. It's the fact that he's broken the migration encounters every single month. And he even decreased it 1 month because of Title 42.
Oh, he should get a Guinness World Record, shouldn't he?
I know, right?
For least secure border under presidency, Joe Biden.
And you broke every single record, even broken Bush's record. And that it was not really
but
hard to
there
do.
will be people who are like, good, more. This is a great idea. I mean, I
The
think
fact that they
that's-
could just walk in and there's no background check. There's nothing going on.
When
Like
the
that how it's
Republicans
supposed to be.
had their press conference the other day, there were migrants crossing in the background, and that's not even the first time that has happened where there's been a live press
But the
conference. and you're
Republicans
watching
need to
people
stop
cross.
with this lip service and pull the strings. Stop with this shenanigans and make it
that's what-
happen in Capitol.
But that's what they were doing with when they had that Ukraine funding bill, and they were like, okay, if you want to pass this, you have to increase border security. And Democrats were like, crazy, absolutely not. Now we don't support Ukraine. Also, we haven't talked to you about Ukraine in a while, I feel like. It's just...
Throwback. Who?
I just find it funny, the senators that are really trying to get push the immigration in the Ukraine have the only one is Cinema, and she's only doing this because of election year for her. Then you got a guy from you got Connecticut, and then you got Langford from Oklahoma, and they're really mostly push it for Ukraine fund. There's nothing really about anything for the border. Because they're really not really talking about it.
No, I mean, the border is something Republicans alone talk about, which is crazy.
They'll talk about it, but they want to attach to something. Can we stop attaching things to things?
Well, right now they're using it as a tool to stop other things, right? Because they know Democrats won't give in on it. The Democrats see supporting a closed border or even, enforcing laws that are on the books. How dare we?
But the
as
Republicans are gonna
a
cave.
death as the end of their career. So Republicans are using it to stop things, and I think you're right. They should do things to move it forward. Unfortunately, I think they believe that the Biden administration would veto or stop anything.
No, because you know
gotta-
why? They're gonna cave the same way how they did with the whole the debt ceiling. We caved and we added more to the deficit than we did to try to cut down and reduce it.
I mean, it's possible. The thing is,
Republicans are all lip talk and they all bark. They're like little chihuahuas, and they think they're like pit bulls. And it's just all right, stop with this lip service. And what Chip Roy said is true. There's nothing we could take back home and say that we accomplished anything because we haven't.
Let's jump to this story. This is big from NBC News. State government buildings face bomb threats for a second consecutive day. Buildings across Mississippi and Arkansas received bomb threats on Thursday, one day after similar threats forced state capitol complexes across the U.S. to evacuate. So yesterday it was 8 states.
9
states.
Yeah.
All Republicans?
Over what?
All
No,
Republicans?
it's a mix, and it's not all swing states.
So
right?
what's going on? You tell Santa Clara.
Oh, well, okay. So as you guys know, this is one of my favorite stories right now. So yesterday, the Capitol buildings in, I'm going to read from my list, Connecticut, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, Montana, Maine, Minnesota, and Michigan, Hawaii, all received bomb threats. They were all evacuated. Most of them were in the morning based on local time. Maine was afternoon. Some of them were in session, having come back from the winter holiday. Some of them weren't. So they all had these sweeps. The majority of the ones that I could track down, the law enforcement that were releasing information said the hoaxes were received via email. Typically, it seemed like it went to someone who worked at the state government building and it triggered an evacuation. Today, there are other government buildings in multiple of these states. So Mississippi has several, not the state capitol, but other affiliated government buildings that are receiving similar threats. The interesting one from yesterday was that Maine had received, I think it was 60 schools in Maine, mid-December had received bomb threats via email. So this is something that's going on. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's very much like a swatting for these government buildings. In some cases, and you're asking about patterns, so some are Republican states, some are Democrats, some are in session, some are not in session. It's not really there's a consistent pattern from what I can see, but it is interesting that now it's spreading throughout other states that were already affected are seeing other.
And you're saying this is all swatting?
I mean, they're bomb threats, so they're not sending in the SWAT team necessarily, but they are disrupting business.
Remember when Target faced a bunch of these threats. I wonder if this is related. I wonder if whoever did
In the casinos, right? The
casinos.
Really?
It reminds me of when the casinos had, am I wrong in remembering the story? They received some, like, not bomb threat, but it was like, we've hijacked all your data, please pay us. And
Oh,
No, that's way different.
Oh, it's way
Ransomware.
different.
That's way
that was the
different.
hotel.
Well, my only point is it's interesting because it's all cyber crime. Like, none of the buildings that were affected yesterday, and as far as I know, I haven't done all of my due diligence research on the buildings that were affected today, none of them actually had explosives in them.
So you're
There
saying
is
this is a cybercrime because they just found out like Russia has been hijacking our cybersecurity for
No.
the past 13 months.
These were emails that were sent. That's
No,
what
that's what I'm trying to see. We're just
I'm
trying
just
to
saying
correlate it.
all of it is done online. It doesn't know, there's no clear indication. It's not like 4 people walked into buildings,
Right.
strapped
Or
with
sent
bombs.
letters.
It's
Just all emails.
It theoretically could all be one person, or it's a coordinated cyber-led attack. I mean, you just don't know, and some of it is
I think it's foreign.
testing
Yeah.
the response from these capitals.
I think it's foreign. I think it's an act of war. I should say that seems the most probable outcome because it is crippling our ability to govern. It's shutting down our institutions.
We have the weakest cybersecurity system we have out there. And we pretend we have the strongest. We have the weakest. The fact that they can hijack the Congress website, they did it like last year in 2 seconds and they shut it down.
The reality is there's no defense. No one has any defense anywhere in the world. Defense is hard. Offense is super easy when it comes to cyber warfare. There's no way to defend a system. It's just not possible. There are certain things you can do, but man, I love how all of these, every business will have like their cybersecurity policy. When I worked at Vice, they have this. They're like, everybody just do not click links in your emails. And the next day it's like, oh, we got 12 more people clicked the links. We got phished again. Passwords got, it's nonstop. No matter how many times you tell a person not to do something, they'll do it anyway. And then they'll lie about it and say they didn't do it.
Or they'll like click on the email for the Nigerian prince because they think they're going to be a billionaire.
You know what the most basic way people breach systems is? Back in the day, it used to be that the quote unquote hacker would drop a floppy disk in front of a bank. And then what happens is someone will pick it up, walk inside, stick it in the computer and go, what's this? Computer infected. Then it became CDs, then it became USBs. And USBs are the commonplace thing now. Someone they'll put a virus on a USB. They'll walk in front of the target building, and they'll just drop it. And all they got to do is wait. Because sooner or later, someone walking into that building for their job will see the USB and pick it up and stick it right in their computer on the network and infect the network. And no matter what you do, no matter how many times you tell these people, they don't care. Because that guy who works in the mailroom goes, I know we're not supposed to, but what do I care? Clicks it in and goes, oh crap, it was a virus. Wasn't me. And throws a stick away. Nothing you can do about it. Yeah. Nothing. So these kind of vulnerabilities we face, look, if they can shut down state capitals, and what are we dealing with? Like 13 states in 2 days? How many states
9.
is this?
It's definitely 9 state
yesterday.
capitals. Today, some of them are happening in the same place. So let's say if there are 2 I only saw 2 new affected states, so that would be like 10 or 11, but still.
Evacuating our state capitol buildings, inhibiting our ability to convene and govern. Imagine if they do that, and they will, when an actual attack happens.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, our centers of power are unable to coordinate and figure out what's going on. I get asked this all the time. People are like, how could a civil war really happen? Oh, my. It's just so insane how easy it is to break a machine. I can give you a million different scenarios. But imagine what would happen if there was a terror attack, and then at the same time, the foreign adversary who did it shuts down communications in the United States. What happens when multiple law enforcement agencies show up to the same scene, unable to communicate? How many stories have there been where police show up on scene and shoot the wrong guy? In New York, they opened fire on a perpetrator and they hit a bunch of innocent people on accident. It is chaos. And if they can't coordinate, communicate, and there's an explosion in DC, and then one jurisdiction says, we've lost communications, we got to figure out what's going on, and there's no way to communicate effectively, then a bunch of random people show up and no one knows who anybody is.
Yeah.
Now, I do think our security apparatus in the United States has plans for things like this. I'm just saying, you bring this
On the federal level, not the state.
but I'm talking about DC. You bring this to the border of Texas, and then it's chaos.
Oh,
The feds respond. There's an attack. The border's in chaos. People are running and screaming. State law enforcement shows up. You got some plainclothes guys. Nobody knows who's who. There's a story going viral that's just dropped about a Trump supporter who got arrested by the feds. What's his name? Actually, I don't have it pulled up. It was the guy who ran that Trump group in Georgia or whatever. And 2 plainclothes guys brandish a firearm at him, and he runs. And then he tries to flee from him. And turns out they were FBI agents. And everyone's saying they did it in this way because they wanted him to get shot and killed, to fight back, not realizing they were law enforcement. Plainclothes FBI show up to an attack with guns drawn. State law enforcement doesn't know who these guys are. They show up and they say, drop your guns, and they're all screaming at each other. You ever see that video of the ATF guy getting detained by the cops? Every libertarian loves this video.
It's the meme. It's the one that got turned into the meme.
He walks to the guy's house because the guy reportedly bought a shotgun, and he's like, give me your information, banging on the door. The guy who lives there calls the police. There's a strange man with a gun is banging on my door. The cops show up and they're like, on the ground now. And he goes, no, I'm law enforcement. And they're like, shut your mouth, on the ground now. And the ATF guy is like, no, I don't have to. And then they throw him down. He's screaming, oh, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Don't they have like a code word for each other? Or I just watched so much Blue Bloods.
No.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Watch the video. They throw this ATF guy to the ground. They pin him down. He's screaming. He can't breathe. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. Now, this was one ATF guy and a handful of cops, so it gets resolved afterwards. But imagine if this is federal law enforcement subverting the law on the border, Texas state level trying to enforce the law on the border, an attack happens, communications go down. It's serious, man.
It's like that meme. It says like cops arrest undercover cops for drug buy.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it has happened on several occasions, been documented.
Your tax dollars at work.
The FBI is setting up a fake drug cell, and then the DEA is doing a fake drug buy, and then they all turn out to be like, oh, we're all law enforcement.
And you, the taxpayer, paid for all of it.
You got to ask yourself, why is this happening this week?
I mean, I think it started the new year. What's your theory?
I'm just saying, like, it's just trying to like ploy to show how like the capitals are just
Oh,
being.
bro,
Well, and
I think this Saturday something happens.
Maybe. I mean, one of the things that I found interesting about this is not like they picked the swing states and then everyone
but I'm saying, like,
right? They picked a bunch of state houses of various sizes. It's not all of our most populated states. They're across the country, and not all of them were in session. And so in some ways, to me, this is all just testing, right? This is to see what the response is. That's why I made the comparison to the casinos, right? To a certain level, like when you do that kind of thing, and especially if you do it to two major different casino brands, you're ultimately trying to see which one will give you money and which one won't. You want to know what their response is. You want to know what their security protocol is. And, effectively, obviously in this case, no one's hurt, everything's fine. But on the other hand, there is now an obvious way to get state capitals to close down as fast as possible.
Well, think about like it's like an election period and somebody just calls in or does something like this at like a voting at like someplace where people vote, right?
Center,
at a polling center, right? So there's a lot of ways where you can just merely disrupt something at a time when there's a finite amount of
not to throw too much shade on him, but if Jamal Bowman could just pull the fire alarm, this is effectively what anyone could do to stop a vote that they don't like. In one of the states, I can't remember which one off the top of my head, their Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, was in session. So theoretically, if you didn't want business to take place, you don't even need to be in this country to be able to say, I'm going to disrupt the day.
How is Bowman not in jail?
Well, the thing is, he was a school principal, and he would never, ever do anything
in all seriousness,
wrong.
how is it that this man committed a crime
Because it
on
didn't
camera?
really stop it.
How is it that this man committed a crime? Everybody saw on video him commit the crime. He lied about committing the crime, and Republicans have done nothing.
Because technically, it didn't really stop. Technically, I asked the one lawmaker, and he told me
That had nothing to do with what I asked.
No. I asked one lawmaker why he didn't get arrested, and he told me
Pulling the firearms illegal.
Right? Yes, but they said because it didn't. When he pulled a fire alarm, it didn't happen when they technically was voting.
That has nothing to do with what I said.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the only reason why they were able to skip that loophole. That's what they told me.
That's not a loophole. Right. That's wrong. So pulling a fire alarm falsely anywhere is illegal.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're in Congress or in a school. Mm-hmm. Jamal Bowman did it and lied about it.
Do you think
the only reason he's not in jail is because there's a criminal.
I'm just telling you the information that he told me.
Yeah, right. But that's like that makes no sense. It's like saying why didn't the guy get arrested for stealing the sandwich because it was Friday? Mm-hmm. What? The location of the Capitol has nothing to do with whether or not it's illegal to pull a fire alarm. The issue is that there are criminals occupying the government, and there's no good men or women willing to do their jobs. Not a single Capitol police officer took it upon themselves to make an arrest. Mm-hmm. Look, if a Capitol police officer has the ability to arrest someone for walking, entering the building unlawfully, like breaking security, if a cop has the ability to issue a citation for driving of their own volition, if a cop has the ability to arrest you because they witnessed you obstructing a roadway, a Capitol police officer could just walk up, arrest Bowman, and say, we saw you on camera do it. There's no investigation needed. Mm-hmm. But there is not a single good man in the Capitol Police who will actually criminally take it upon himself to enforce the law.
Yeah. And George Santos was the only one who introduced expulsion papers for Jamal Bowman.
What is this reality we live in where in order for a crime to be, for a law to be enforced, you require some kind of act of Congress. Yo, if a cop witnesses someone falsely pull a fire alarm, he will arrest that person. No question anywhere. Jamal Bowman did it.
Yeah,
a single Capitol officer nowhere just said, I'm going to arrest the guy.
I haven't looked at it in a couple of weeks, but he did get some kind of plea deal where he's on probation. He has to go to court in 3 months. Like, there was something that he got cited for.
Right. Fair point. You got to slap on the wrist.
But that was the thing. He pled to this plea, it came out, whatever else. He released a statement being like, I basically did nothing wrong, but of course I respect whatever.
And then the evidence
came out that it wasn't just that he pulled the fire alarm, it was that he removed the sign saying don't use this door or whatever,
right,
and then pulled the fire alarm.
He lied.
And that was sort of where I wanted more furor from the Republicans. But I guess at that point,
again, they're chihuahuas.
And again, the Republican that introduced them has now been expelled from Congress. It's kind of crazy. It doesn't really make sense. But again, like at a certain point, there's the lack of follow through. Like you're kind of alluding to this with the border stuff. Like the Republicans need to see things through to the end. And I just don't know that that's what they're going to do.
They need to stop barking and start biting.
Yeah.
It's not, now time is like game time to start being like Trump. Like if you really want to like back your action, you've been barking. We had the most embarrassing Republican led House and Congress to have the least amount of bills passed last year. You know how much times that's going to be used against Republicans? I mean, used against Republicans this year? For the House seats.
But like
that's the only
you're saying that they should have done more stuff because I don't feel like
they didn't pass a lot of bills. First of all,
is that necessarily awful? Like,
I mean, it looks bad. The headlines looks bad.
The headline looks bad, but like in effect, do we want the government to just be continuously passing tons and tons of bills more than the year before? Like,
I mean,
I don't necessarily want
the only bills they passed
laws.
was like changing the post office name and adding a new street. That's what I'm saying. Like they were the least productive Congress in the past couple decades.
That's actually a good thing.
Right. But I'm saying they can't say that like we've done this.
They can't point to their record.
They can't
say
point
we did
to
nothing.
It.
We don't want them to pass.
Nothing.
We don't want them to pass bills. We want them to pass like criminal referrals.
Right. But I'm saying like you can't say like we did this. We passed the most border enhanced security bill ever. We done this. We've helped pass Ukraine aid. We helped pass Israel aid. Like you look at all the Republicans that made all these videos for like Christmas to
not pass more
and again,
aid.
like
they passed it in the House, but they didn't. It's not going to go to the Senate. Stop taking credit for something that didn't happen.
But the thing is, like, it's not that I think they should be productive. I think there are certain things that they should prioritize. Like I said, with the border, it seems like they're using it to stop Democrats from getting more funding out of the country. And also they know that ultimately everything will fail in the Senate. I mean, it's a weirdly unproductive time because we're sort of staring down the barrel of another presidential election. Republicans only have control of the House by a very slim majority. I mean, what's his name? Bill Johnson, the guy from Ohio who just announced he's retiring in like 3 weeks. When he leaves, there's only 219 Republicans to 213 Democrats. So there's a certain level of like, yes, I would like them to do more. On the other hand, I don't actually believe this could be a highly productive time.
But just don't make it seem like it's semantics that you actually did something when you actually did nothing. You know, back up your claims.
Yeah, we need the ones that are like limited government. Look, we did nothing. Hooray!
I like
exactly.
that.
That's
like
what I'm saying.
that.
I'd rather be like,
We
hey, we got
passed
nothing
no
done.
aid bills. How about that?
But I think there will be Republicans that can't. They're like, look, I successfully blocked the additional Ukraine
That
aid.
is doing something. By doing nothing, you have done something.
Yeah, I don't want
credit
laws
for
just to
something
be
that's
like
nothing.
I just don't want like the goal to be like Congress has to say we passed more bills than last year.
But
because
the problem is with the
passing?
average American, it looks so bad. If you're a political guy like us, like we're so into this stuff, like we cheer this on. But then you ask like the regular average Joe in America, they're gonna be like, we pay their salary and they did nothing. It's just the semantics look bad.
Maybe. I don't know if all Americans would feel that way though. I mean, I think there is enough distrust of government because like we want to look back at COVID when they passed all kinds of things and said all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I think there is a growing distrust of the federal government where people would say like, maybe we don't want a lot of stuff.
But if you tell
happening.
average American, like, hey, this was the least productive Congress, just leave it like that. There's where that's how. You just have to twist one word and then it changes everything.
The only productivity
and
you want
Republicans have the
is
worst communications.
Criminal referrals, investigations, and subpoenas.
But where's it leading to?
Well, they're not doing it.
Won't matter anyways. We're coming up on a time eventually where nothing will matter unless either party has a super majority because everybody's voting on party lines so often now anyways.
The hyperpolarization in this country, there's a chart going viral on Twitter showing political ideology by profession. And in the 10 years, it's just, there's no middle anymore. It's gone. And I've been saying this for all, there's no middle anymore. Doesn't matter. You're left or you're right.
And that Gen Z is proving this. That's what I was saying earlier in the show. Like Gen Z is also drifting apart from itself. There is a disappearing moderate class in this country.
Well, remember
It's gone already. The data shows it's gone.
crazy.
But remember the voting statistics, which said like women said the biggest red flag is if the guy they might date supports Trump or Republicans, and the men said like the biggest red flag is if she's a communist.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, listen, my biggest red flag,
You know
if
what
I'm on the dating app and he says he's a liberal or she, they, where, what, when, where, why.
But you know what
Swipe left.
you know what I realized is
Done.
really funny is that, growing up, the trope was that men are sex obsessed. And the meme is, men only want one thing, and it's disgusting. And then you start to realize when you watch comedy videos, it's actually totally the other way around. Guys are object oriented and totally interested in sports, numbers. They actually don't talk all that much about women, and women talk about nothing but guys.
Men have like a lot of like unique hobbies that end up binding them together with their friends.
So I look at these comedy videos, and so I follow a bunch of comedians on Instagram. I get a ton of comedy videos. 90% of the clips that come from a guy will be about an issue, and like it could be about anything. Like with Dave Chappelle, look at his jokes. He's joking about Madison Cawthorn handicap. He's talking about Andy Kaufman and Jim Carrey, telling life stories. All of these female comedians, the joke is they're always just talking about their vaginas. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's a crass way of putting
basically
it.
for the shock factor.
Yeah.
But every single female comedian, when I'm on Instagram and I hit refresh and I'm seeing all these comedians, if there's a female comedian, I know that if I hit it, she's gonna be talking about dating a guy. I know if it's a guy, it could be anything. And the reason I bring that up is because as we're looking at the bifurcation of politics between men and women, I believe it's going to result in this country moving conservative for the reason of women are more subject oriented and more time constrained on having a partner. Men are not. So if a guy says, I don't like commies, he just won't date anybody. But around 30 to 35, when women start getting, the biological clock is ticking and they want to have kids, they have to start trying to find a guy. But if guys are skewing to the right, those women will have to adapt themselves to the guy, not the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. So you ever heard of the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?
Yes.
So one of my favorite points in that book was the psychologist John Gray points out that when men go to lunch, they're typically going to talk about a specific problem. They're like, there is a purpose to it, right? They're meeting. There's something to do. Women go and they just sort of gather a lot of information, right? It's
And
one
they
of the reasons
gossip.
like the stereotypical like girls can be on the phone with their friends for hours and hours because they're wired to do different things, and I think both are valuable, but they play out very differently in society.
Well, look at a Family Guy has the joke where Peter Griffin gets injected with the gay gene as part of a clinical trial, and then he calls Quagmire, and he's like, "Hey, Glenn," and Glenn's like, "Yeah, and what you doing? What do you mean? You called me?" And that just shows you like the joke of the difference between the feminine approach to calling someone versus the guy. It's like, you called me. What do you want?
Yeah. But it's
Just to
just totally
talk.
different, and I think that these things could be good. The problem is that feminism has really made it so that women are trying to compete with men in male spheres. They don't just do things that are natural to women and like them. It sort of makes it so like the best female comedians that I know actually have some really interesting social observations, right? Like when Ali Wong, who does talk about her vagina a lot, would talk about trying to trap her Harvard educated husband or Harvard business school husband. It was really funny, right? Because the way women talk about like the way they approach dating when it's not necessarily about their sexual approach to dating can be really nuanced, can be really interesting because it gives you an insight into something you may not know. It's the same thing with male comedians.
I don't watch female comedians anymore.
I don't know why you would.
Because dude, she's gonna be talking about a guy she dated, and I'm just like,
All right.
that's look.
You can ask
look,
a random girl on the street and
that's-
she'll tell you the same thing that comedian just had.
But it's totally fine if this is what women find funny. Hearing another woman talk about her boyfriend.
I
For
find
me,
it
I'm
boring.
like, that's why we were talking on the members only show about this one female comedian who made a joke about homelessness, and I'm like, that was a really, really good joke. And but it's just like, we talked about this.
Yeah.
But I swear I'm on Instagram and I'm going through it and I'll hit a guy's joke and he'll be like, so my car broke down or something like that. And you're like, oh, wow, what happened to your car? And or I'll be telling a story like I was going to the supermarket and this guy was trying to buy this Coca-Cola, right? And I'm like, oh, what's this story about buying a Coca-Cola? Something that happened. And then I click the woman and she's like, so my boyfriend, here's the trick. My boyfriend. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. It's just unrelatable to me. And that's fine. You're allowed to like these things. But anyway, aside from all of that, no more whinging about female comedians. The point is, what I've started to see with these social trends, when we've learned this from Instagram, women care substantially more about social how you fit in socially than men do. I think we've known this for a long time. What this means is a guy will be 35, sitting there like, yeah, you know what? I want to vote for Trump. These women don't like it. Whatever, I guess. And these women are going to be going, I'm 35 and I need to find a husband, but all of these guys are into Trump. What do I do?
Yeah, but then when you find all these guys that are, they vote for Trump and then they find a girl that votes for Trump, they're scared shitless what to do next.
I think that's somewhat true.
I don't agree with that.
I'm speaking from experience.
Right.
though.
That sounds like an anecdotal thing, not a data thing.
I'm trying to say like, no, I'm just trying to say like an alpha and an alpha.
See,
getting
what
together.
I think it's that men will tack more conservative. There will be more men who are openly outspoken about what they believe. But because women are socially observant and that's what they're doing, there will be generations of women after that who move more conservative to keep up, right? Because if ultimately
what I'm
you're
saying is the pressure is
true,
on women, not men. So you're going to have women who are not alphas. They're
Yeah.
going to be saying something like, guy, I will say whatever you want me to say, please. I don't have a lot of time. And there's going to be a guy like, bro,
so she's
I can
willing
have.
to settle for less than what
Well,
she believes
not-
in. What
She doesn't believe. I'm saying she probably doesn't believe in anything. She's influenced by social media to a great degree to just say Joe Biden because it's what all the people on social media are saying. But then when it actually comes down to it, she's going to say, I don't care. I want to have a family.
I think it really depends on her social exposure, right? Because if she's largely socializing with women, like maybe she does want to marry a man, but ultimately she works in a female-dominated industry. She hangs out with all of her female friends, and all of her female friends naturally tack left. They're all voting Democrat. She is likely to hold on to beliefs. But as soon as you put women into more balanced or social environments where there are more men, I think that changes really quickly. And I don't necessarily think it's because of dating. I think it's because of social compliance, which is higher among women.
But there's a lot of liberal women that they're like in their late 30s, early 40s, and they're out there bragging about like being a feminist and being a
Yeah,
liberal.
they don't care.
And like they're single
norm.
and they have a cat and they don't have kids. And I'm like,
And that's all
why
great.
is your greatest accomplishment that you don't have kids?
But don't
And
you feel like
so that's
they're
breaking
like,
down now because
Yeah.
you've got these articles from, say, Business Insider, where this woman says, I was lied to by feminism. And she said she wants to go back to all her feminist college professors and says, when was this supposed to happen? You lied to me. Because now she's realizing none of it made her happy at all. And it was a trick.
yeah.
Let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member. Why? We got tickets to the Iowa caucus event. That's right. On the 15th of this month, when the Iowa caucus happens, we will have a live show, and you can be sitting in those chairs, and we'll probably even throw some questions to the audience. That is the plan. We'll see how it plays out. But the only way to buy tickets is to be a member, and the link is available on the front page of timcast.com. We're doing this it's partially for a vetting reason, and it's also because members get first priority. So as soon as the link went up, the members got access to it. And if you're not a member, you got to become one. But also, we're going to have that uncensored members only show at 10 p.m. where you can hang out with us behind the scenes, where we say things that are not so family friendly. And that'll be up at timcast.com. So smash that like button, all that good stuff. Let's read your super chats. User Main says, hi, join the Discord. Yes, we have a Discord server. If you go to timcast.com and become a member, you can get instructions on how to join the Discord server. And what does that mean? It is an active 24/7 chat room with like-minded individuals who watch the show and run their own chat shows, pre-shows, after shows, guests, and everything. It is a vibrant community of people who are discussing all these ideas. It's good fun. You should definitely join.
I really like the Discord. They're always doing stuff. And then over Thanksgiving, they were like, hey, you want to come talk to us? And they very kindly guided me through how to use it.
Was that fun? I remember because you were on our show that one time and they were like, we're going to get you to do it. And sometimes you're like, I don't know if I want to sign up for all this.
Yeah, I joined Discord, got immediately overwhelmed by the interface.
You're like,
backed right out.
technology, no thank you.
But Raymond G. Stanley Jr. was like, hey, I'll explain to you what to do.
All right. RJ McDougalheim says, Tim, how can I work for your new skate park? I ran one that hosted many comps, jams, and events. I can be a helpful addition. Who can I reach out to? It is a private park. And there will not be skate park people working there because there's not going to be anybody showing up to like come in and check in. It's going to be I say semi-private because we will invite some people sometimes. That just basically means it's private. But we're going to do a bunch of really cool stuff. We are planning a party for the official completion of the skate park. The good news is the structure of the new studio, it's done. The rooms are done. The green room is done. The kitchen is there. The bathrooms are all there. We are really excited. And it may be mid-February when we are officially inside. So the new Timcast IRL studio is being built in 2 weeks. And I don't know how long it'll take, but I can't imagine it'll take that long. It could be a couple days. And if that's the case, February 1st, we might be in the brand new studio. It's a much bigger room. It'll be really, really cool, really fun. And we're adding a bunch of new, cool, crazy features. One of the features we're adding is called a delay button. Do you guys know what a delay button does? So let's just say, for instance, we're talking about Epstein and someone on the show just can't hold it in any longer and they scream out at the top of their lungs how much they want to commit an act of violence. When that happens, we press the button, that portion drops and it never goes live. You see, all big networks already have that.
Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every network has that. So if you're watching cable sometimes, they'll be doing a live interview and they'll be like, joining us live to talk about this issue is John Smith. And then they'll be talking and then all of a sudden it'll just jump to the host being like, sorry about that, everybody, but moving on. And you're like, wait, what just happened?
Or they'll say like the call dropped, right?
No, they'll actually.
I mean, like the connection dropped.
No, they don't. No. When they hit.
No, I'm saying they use that as an excuse.
No. They will actually just say, we had to release the guest because of the language they used. We apologize to people who are listening.
They actually admit it? Wow, shocking.
Yeah. When the calls drop, the calls drop. Sometimes the calls drop and we roll our eyes. Like, I can't remember. It was like, I think it was, what's his face? Cuomo has that famous viral video where he's talking to someone. They start bringing up some sensitive issue, and then all of a sudden it does that. Boo. He's like, oh, geez. And that looked really fake. But no. My point is quite literally, networks all have these delay buttons, and then they'll say, sorry about that, everybody. It'll just mid-conversation, then it'll just jump to those going, sorry about that, everybody. That language is not acceptable on this network. Moving on to the next story.
Is the new studio going to have money guns that shoot at us during super chats?
No, only the
If you're
pop
going to have money gun, you have to have neon lights.
We do have neon lights.
I'm waiting for
Pasha
them to
type
add
neon
like a
lights.
smoke machine.
Oh, smoke machine, EDM.
The next thing we're adding is a stripper pole.
That is not happening.
Can we make it rain
I
like
will,
Hunter Biden?
we will charge far more for that. Far
Hey,
more.
you guys should release
Hey.
a calendar.
We hey.
Do not invoke that right now.
Can somebody please tell me about this calendar? Because that's how you know I do not
we can't.
follow
I'm not
social
here
issue.
to
No
rot my
comment.
brains
No
out.
comment.
Okay, thank
Serge
you.
is fired.
All right. We're going to keep going.
I am just sick
Let's
and
read.
tired.
Okay, all right. Let's read some more. All right. Hans Gruber says the missing name is Joe Biden. Yeah. Everybody wants to say Joe Biden, but it's not the missing name. Ethan Helms says, have you seen Vivek's interview on NBC News, as well as his response to condemning white supremacy? Strong start to 2024. He's looking better by the day. Vivek Ramaswamy was asked to condemn white supremacy, and he gave this excellent response about, I'm not going to bend the knee to your religion. I condemn all forms of racial discrimination. But what you're asking is, he basically says, you're playing a game of trying to, this gotcha game I'm not going to play. I'm not going to bend the knee to your religion. I'm not asking you to bend the knee to mine. But I know you're going to run this anyway. And we know exactly what you're going to say. You're going to say Vivek refuses to condemn white supremacy, despite the fact I will tell you again, I condemn all forms of racial discrimination. And then, of course, what did the Washington Post writer do? Tweeted out, when asked, Vivek Ramaswamy refused to condemn white supremacy. Because these people are, well, look, it's not her fault she's developmentally disabled. It is her fault she's evil.
And it's her fault that she's racist. She's asking the minority candidate to condemn white supremacy. Like, that's a bad look, team.
I know. It's white lady doing it too.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Knickers Gaming says, finally joined the members Discord last night. I'm upset that I didn't join it sooner. It was a blast and stayed up way too late. I'm currently running on 3 hours of sleep in the past 48 hours. You see, this is the challenge.
That's the story of my life.
When you sign up at timcast.com and join the Discord, you can never leave, because once you start arguing with someone online, you can't stop.
But we're not a cult. You're free to go anytime.
Well, we're not a cult. It's just
That's not true. I get in the Discord sometimes and I argue with people and then I just leave. I just ghost. Boom, I'm a phantom. I'm out of there.
You're here for like one really
you're
good,
wrong. And then I'm just gone.
you have like one zinger,
Yeah.
come back, and then you're out.
Gone.
You're ghosting, huh?
Yeah, they're gone.
Ghosting.
So we have a whole bunch of super chats of people giving potential names. But, Sheldon Adelson is a name. Alejandro Mayorkas, 17 letters. 17 is not what we said.
Jessica messaged me Stephen Kaufman, but and I guess it's on Twitter.
Christopher Ray.
He was acting chief counsel for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
What's
but
this?
there was 2 different spellings of it, one with 2 N's and one without, so I don't really know what.
You can't just name a person you don't like who's got 15 letters in their name. Okay?
Yes, you can.
So, like, yes,
you
you
abso-
can.
you
Yes, you can.
absolutely can.
Yes, you can.
That is your right.
Can somebody please make this into a Wordle game?
Yes.
Yes. What was his name from the National Security? Sullivan?
Jake Sullivan?
Yeah.
I don't think that's 15 letters.
That's what I'm trying to think in my head.
Make it a Wordle game with the court and the court. And it's like, if we figure it out, you have to, the name is really
If we get the letter, you have to let us know.
This is a female.
You guys agreed to make this fun.
All right. Thomas Wright says, what happened to yesterday's show? Why isn't it at least on Rumble? And it's fascinating because he said this at 8:26 and it is on Rumble. The show from last night is in full on Rumble.
Check again.
And it's also on all podcast platforms. I tweeted this out as well. But I will tell you the challenge, my friends. A lot of people will say, like, I'll say something and they'll say, Tim said that yesterday. But the people who say that don't realize the average person doesn't watch every single show and every single clip. And most people, this is the funny thing, I'll tweet out, we released a song. I tweeted this out like the other day, like our 4th song to hit Billboard. And they went, I didn't know you made music. And I'm like, it's kind of wild that we had 4 out of 5 songs chart on Billboard. which is like most bands don't even get one song on Billboard charts. Big names do. And then they're like, I didn't even know you did that. And I'm like, every week we do a release, we like do this long promo, and there are people who had no idea we made music. So how about that? So when the show goes down and I tweet out 3 times, the show will be free and available on all podcast platforms. Find it here. When we say like we're going to put it up on Rumble and all these things, people still go, where's the show and what happened? Because there's no way for us to inform everyone all at the same moment. It's not possible.
It's why people get mad when you have to constantly tell people to, when you mention like, subscribe, all these things, because they have to hear it multiple times, because not everybody's paying attention exactly at that moment. Other people are doing other things. So you have to constantly use repetition to really get it across.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't connect.
Not always.
What a guy says, ChatGPT says, Elizabeth Warren. She certainly has the power to stall a FOIA.
9 and 6.
I want to know who the other prince was. Like, that one just was so random.
As long as it's
The other
not the
prince.
artist formerly known as Prince.
Elizabeth Warren is 15 letters.
Yeah.
But I don't see a reason why she would be on the list.
I think it has to be, like,
Probably going to be a dude.
we got to
funnier
cross-reference
if
it
it's
with
her,
people that
though.
were, like, known to have an affiliation,
Yeah.
right?
Stephen Bachmeyer says they mentioned redacting because of security risks in home country of people, which is why some people think the prince is from SA, Saudi Arabia. These drops are not legally damning. They are culturally and morally damning. That is correct. Absolutely. And it may be a prince. The other prince.
The other prince. That's so intriguing to me. Also, Prince Andrew must be livid right now that everyone was willing to name him, but they're not willing to name the other one.
Well, you gotta blame your mommy for like dropping you out of the whole royal family for being able to open that kind of worms.
Let's grab some more super chats. There's a whole lot of names. Here we go. What do we have here? More names. Another name. I think we got like
They were going
15
crazy.
super chats saying Christopher Wray.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot of them.
Like 15. Right. Samuel Brucker says, what if instead of a famous person, it's an unknown person whose very existence is evidence of something much worse than all of the grape? Fair point. It might be a name that as soon as people figure out a name you've never heard of and you look and you say, who's that? And you Google search, you go, oh my stars and
The
garters.
missing link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
It could be anything. It could be anything. No one
Perhaps
really knows.
indeed. Oh, another person said Christopher Wray. Yeah, again, like 15 of those. All right. B. Vip says Alan Dershowitz claimed the allegations of a teenager being forced into sex with him was categorically false. I hear this phrase a lot. Is this a diversion or yeah, I don't believe Dershowitz. You know, he denied it. It is what it is. I don't believe him. I don't know how how you're the lawyer of this guy, not aware of what's going on. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of lawyers out there. They know their clients are guilty, but they're going to provide the best defense they can. They're going to be like, yes, but so you did punch that man. But how did they find out you did? The video they got was taken from your camera without a warrant. That's fruit from the poison tree. And we're going to get that thrown out and the case will be dismissed. But everybody knows you did it. I'm pretty sure Dershowitz was aware of what was going on. I mean, in my opinion. All right.
It was a different time.
Cam Pete says, just like to say I was the first in with Ray. Congratulations, Cam Pete. The name, I don't know. We don't know who it is. Richard Klein says it's safe to assume it's not a conservative that's redacted. It could be a foreign leader of a state that's being protected. Yup.
Exactly.
Do you
I
think
think
we'll
that's a
ever
strong
find out who it
possibility.
is?
No.
Yes.
Well, I mean, not right now. Maybe like another 2 years.
In 2 years?
But what I should say is I believe there is a possibility we get the Epstein list. It just means we have to win the culture war.
Is that our
We have to-
October surprise?
The October surprise is someone coming out and claiming Donald Trump did the whole thing, and they create an org chart with Trump above Epstein. But that's for the Democrats. But if Trump wins, I do think there's a possibility that information comes out. So if you want to know who's on that list, look, what did we learn from the first release? Donald Trump was not there. He had not met these women. He wasn't around. He didn't sleep with any of these women. It's very strong evidence for Trump that he was involved in any of this stuff. It's good. Considering he was in the proximity of these people on the left, is trying to claim he was involved by showing videos of him like at a party with Epstein. And I'm like, yeah, Epstein went to parties.
Epstein famously moved in elite social circles.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean every single person involved did something wrong. Fair point. I just don't trust Bill Clinton. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, he likes him young.
How
Don't
young
know.
is too young? That's the
And-
question.
Epstein young is too young.
No, I meant Bill Clinton.
It's kind of creepy when Epstein is known for doing what he does and then he says the word young because you assume it means younger than he's already involved in.
I know,
Oh,
it's
God.
terrifying.
Disgusting. There are demons out there, man. There are demons. Blue de Gaulier says it's a Saudi prince. Remember, there was a redacted name because of being from a conservative country.
Okay, but we have to remember
true.
there's the redacted name, there's some other names, and then it says the other prince. So
Which is not the redacted
And
name.
it can't be the prince.
they're separate things. Like someone on there was guessing, like, oh, this prince's name fits the number of syllables, but they are two separate mysterious
And
people.
the Saudi prince has like 5 names, so they would have to put his whole name out there.
I mean, but theoretically, that's a transcript, so they wouldn't say like all of the names. They might just refer it by like the common
They'll
name who's
name
known.
like Prince, or they'll probably put his MBS, whatever.
Who
And
knows?
that's probably like over like 25 letters.
Dark World says, have your children skip a meal or two, or have your grandchildren not eat for a week. Pick your poison. I'm not condemning people who do a deal with the devil to save their kids. I'm making the point that when the devil offers you the deal, it's not going to be for a luxury car. It's going to be to feed your children. It will be the hardest decision you have to make. And I think it's fair to say, perhaps the majority of men would sell their soul to the devil, knowing they would condemn themselves for eternity if it meant their kids got to eat. That's not I'm neither condemning nor condoning. I'm pointing it out. If that's who you are and you take issue with that statement, perhaps you should reflect on your morals. Because some people might actually suggest it is noble to sacrifice your eternal soul to save your children. I don't think working in service of the devil figuratively or literally is a good thing. And I think it condemns your children, but sure. When you say have your kids skip a meal or have your grandchildren not eat for a week, you pick your poison. Yeah, you got to understand what we're talking about is exponential returns. If today you sell out your country so your kids can have a full belly tomorrow, it means your grandkids will not have anything. It means your grandkids will live in the pod and eat the bugs. But if that's worth selling your soul to the devil, okay. I mean, think about it. The idea would be that you are offered the Faustian deal or the deal with the devil. We will keep your children fed, but serve evil. You say, sounds good to me. It's better than my child starving. What you're actually doing is making sure that your child grows up in despair and desolation, and your grandkids are slaves living in pods and eating bugs. Or your kids can go hungry today, and you can fight the hardest fight you've ever fought. And then maybe in 50 years, your grandchildren will live in prosperity and thank you for your sacrifice. A society grows great when men plant trees whose shade they know they will never sleep beneath. So, it's whatever. Not condemning nor condoning. What do we got here? Neglectful Sausage says, Native Americans wanting to stop mass migration to their territory was racist. They should have welcomed the Xenos bulldozing their culture. No. Hold on there a minute. I think we've solved the entire thing there, sir. All of these non-citizens who are coming in, we just place them on the Native American reservations. And there we go. The Native Americans will be glad to see the migration culturally enriching their reservations. The left will agree that it's not colonization. Migration's a net benefit for everybody. And these migrants who are coming in will require goods and services. So what will happen is businesses will start popping up on the reservations. The casinos, some of these reservations have, will flourish. And for those that don't, you'll see Walmarts popping up in no time because obviously these migrants want jobs and also want to buy products. It will boost the economy. And in fact, many of these deeply impoverished reservations could use an influx of a new population. I think everyone's going to recognize it's a win-win, right? Right?
How many people are saying Merrick Garland?
A lot of people are saying Merrick Garland.
Okay.
But I mean, just because you don't like a guy doesn't mean his name fits. I don't think the names fit.
No, because everybody's like saying Christopher Ray, and I can't see from far. Like, just
It's hard to know. Mm-hmm. What do we got? Hammer11 says, unfortunately, if Trump gets into office, he is going to have to round up all the illegal immigrants, and it's going to look like the Nazis hunting Jews in the 1940s. It's exactly what I said, I think, 2 days ago on this show. And I think many other people have alluded to already. Dreams of a Strange Man says, did anyone say Mark Zuckerberg? With the space between his names, that's 15. Excuse me. Not national security related, but I don't know. I mean, wealth related.
Yeah,
So who
I have
knows?
this whole thing where, like, I think Mark Zuckerberg is slightly younger than most of the people who are coming up. Like, you have to remember, there was a chance that we know that he's big and powerful now, but when this was all happening, was he the person of influence that would have been courted by someone by Epstein?
And this was 2011, right? So Facebook was like already. Like
No, those
4 years
documents are
in.
2016.
Oh, 2016. Okay.
And
That's
the
the
redaction
document.
is today.
Oh, and the email was 2011.
But the release is now.
Right. No,
So
no,
the
I'm saying
question is-
I got confused with the email and then
Right.
that one.
The question is who exists today to prevent their name from being released, because the documents were released now.
Yeah.
All right. Josiah Everdeen says, "Hey Tim, I've been listening for a couple years now. Huge fan. Listen to your daily segments while working. I'm curious, what do you mean when you say I think something will happen this Saturday? Thanks. It's January 6th. Saturday is
The
January
day
6th.
that lives in infamy, that's what they say.
Well, we got swatted on January 6th in 2022, I think it was. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like it's 2024.
Maybe we're
January
just
6th.
get a lot of snow and everything's gonna be
No,
great.
that's what's
it's
gonna
gonna rain.
happen.
It's gonna rain.
Yeah, the I just checked. They're saying that the high is going to be 53 degrees, and we're not going to get snow. We're going to get rain.
We were supposed to get 10 inches of snow.
Not
Yeah,
anymore.
no.
I predicted this
Wait, that's so upsetting.
because
awesome.
we were warned like a few months ago there was going to be a snowstorm, and then it rained for 3 days.
Yeah.
And so, Allison really wants it to snow so we can go snowboarding and stuff. And then we get this warning of a nor'easter and 12 inches of snow. And then I said, what's going to happen? It's going to be a few days out, and they're going to say it's going to rain. Sure enough, I checked again, and it said a high of 53 degrees and rain.
Tim's a witch. He controls the weather.
In New York, it says a mix of
Perhaps.
snow, rain and snow, highs in mid-30s, lows, watching a potential winter storm.
All right. Tucson Lorum says men and women are not equal. Men can make long-term decisions beneficial to society. Women cannot. Men will hold each other accountable for wrongs. Women will give each other attention and reasons for why they were right when wrong.
Excuses.
Feminism and women's rights were wrong. I completely disagree with you, sir.
Yeah, I do.
I appreciate the super chat, but I can tell you why you're wrong. Because there are law enforcement officers facilitating the invasion on the southern border with smiles on their faces because they would rather their kid eats today and the United States burn and your families burn and your culture and community burn. These men don't care about what is wrong. They care about what protects their family. So long as those men exist, you can't tell me that men can make long-term decisions beneficial to society. Sure, they can also make decisions of personal benefit because they care more about their kids than you and what this future has for their kids. I mean, that's the grand mistake. Short-term gains for long-term losses is what it is. My kid will eat a cheeseburger today, but then will eat the bugs and live in the pod in 10 years. That's what they're building.
I think there are all kinds of women that make good choices for society too. I
Sure.
mean, they are more social. They're different, but generalizing them too much is a mistake. I think.
Yeah, there are good women and there are bad guys. Like how many male feminists are out there? You can't tell me that men are capable of making these decisions when half of millennials are like 45% of millennial men are identify as like male feminists or whatever. I'm like these guys can't make good decisions because even women call them creepy. Like even liberals.
Is that a real
call them-
number? Is that a real number? 45%?
I think it's
That's-
around.
Going
I
back
think
to
it's around that.
the
That's disturbing.
going back to the border thing, do you think the whipping story really like haunted them and there's the reason why they're not being agents like they used to be?
The thing about that story, so it was when there were migrants from Haiti
43%.
who were gathering under a bridge and
really
moving across.
creepy. Yeah, no.
And no one was actually whipped. They were just
No, I
I'm
know, I
sorry.
know
I'm
that. That's
sorry.
what I'm
We got a
saying.
correction. We got a correction here. 52% of millennial men identify as male feminists.
gross.
And we wonder
I'm
why
saying,
the
like-
birth rates are collapsing.
Yeah.
Those border agents did nothing wrong, but they were so reprimanded. Like if they did something so highly,
I think, yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons that Alejandro Mayorkas is being accused of dereliction of duty, which is that he went and told Congress, yes, that was awful, and they did these things, and it wasn't even true, right? He
Right.
condemned his own agents. I think the fear is a big part of it, right? There are people who want to lose their jobs, but also there are people who just don't want to be canceled for theoretically being an evil law enforcement officer doing something they shouldn't. And when you know the ultimate authority is contradicting itself, that we have these border laws on the books, but that the federal government is not going to back you up if you are in your professional capacity enforcing them,
Right.
then your hands are really tied. What
Because
are you supposed to be doing?
those agents were like,
That's why I say
they
like,
didn't get paid for like 10, 12, almost a year.
And maybe they should go work for a state border agency at this point.
Tom Pant says, sometimes
Like
the delay
Sandy
button
to
doesn't
everything.
work, as Shepard Smith found out during a police chase several years ago. You guys remember that?
No.
Yeah, I do.
The guy died on live on Fox News. And he was like, wasn't he like, cut it, oh,
Yeah,
something like that?
It was like too late.
Yep.
That's why we need a dump button, everybody.
Yeah, that's what it's called, a dump button.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we operate with like almost no lag. I think it's like we have a very, very minimal,
It's so short. It's like
10 seconds.
10 seconds at most. 15 seconds. Yeah.
which we just like, this studio is duct tape. Like it's good duct tape,
Literally.
but it's duct tape.
Yeah.
There's a lot of duct tape everywhere. The lights, duct tape. So we have a professional studio production company coming in a few weeks for the new studio, and they're gonna have like professional lighting.
Well, technically, it's gaff tape.
It's gaff tape.
It's gaff
Right.
tape.
Let's
give
not.
it that.
We're
It's
not.
gaff.
We're not heathens
I'm
here.
just grateful that the lights are white and not yellow. Because
Well,
I'll be like tearing up.
the yellow ones are in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, but
like the
the,
lighting.
Mine is-
the white one is on me, so it's like the eyes.
They're both on you. We
Mine is
control the level of
opposite.
warmth.
Like for me, the lights. Like I can't even wear my glasses in here because I get a my
Yeah,
eyes.
no.
I get a
Pop
headache.
Culture Studio
Yeah.
has great lighting.
Yeah.
Well, the pop culture studio, isn't it like a bunch of different lights aimed in different ways?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's 4 to 6 different neons that are all pointed in different directions
okay.
to give different
color?
lighting. For
The
yeah.
the
purple and green.
So this is the fourth
interesting.
IRL studio. The first studio had a few stand-up lights. Second IRL studio had a few stand-up lights. The third IRL studio, which is now the Pop Culture Crisis studio, had like 12 lights in a bunch of different random positions.
We've slowly removed them and
Trying to light.
streamlined it. I'd like to get like soft boxes up there at some point just to have less stuff up there.
They look good. Yeah.
Yeah, just there's you're
Yeah.
moving around a lot of stuff, and depending on what time of day is and how tired you are, you bump into a lot of lights.
What we did for this studio was in the corner of the ceiling, there's LED bars that wrap around the entire room. So all light is balanced. And then in the middle is warmer lights. They're more yellow. And then we control the amount of warmth that we have in the center of the room versus the white on the outside of the room. So everything is uniform and there's no shadows.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But the new studio is going to likely have shadows.
Are
and
they
it's
gonna
central
like,
lighting?
bang it out all at once to like do it, or they're gonna do it in between your shows?
No, we won't go there if they're under construction.
Oh, I thought they're doing it here. Sorry.
No,
no, it's a
My
new
bad.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally new place. Totally
Nice.
new building.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we're really excited. That should be in a couple weeks. All right, everybody. If you what do we got here? Let's grab one more. TNHP podcast says, "Hey Tim, huge fan, been a fan since 2019. Just want to know. I have accumulated 11,000 followers on a different app called Meet Me. Is there anything I can do to help? Let me know. I'm not sure what that is, but I appreciate the support. Yeah, and we're gonna go to the. Is that what?
Isn't that like Hinge?
No
He's got
idea.
11,000 followers on like a dating app. Is
I
that
don't
what it is?
know. Just pick someone.
All right, everybody. If
sounds
you
like-
haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, and you can purchase tickets if you haven't already. If they're still there, I think we probably sold out of the tickets for the 15th show. I got to be honest. Probably sold out as soon as we launched it. I got to check, but it's very likely it's sold out within like 10 minutes. So if you want to show up, sit in the audience in person for Timcast IRL, hang out with us, and not just Vivek. There's going to be a bunch of people there at the caucuses. So we're going to have a rotating panel of special guests hanging out with us, talking about what they think is going on. You can be there too. And it will be intimate. We'll put it that way, meaning like a small amount of tickets and, relatively private event. But go to timcast.com because the members only uncensored is also coming up. You don't want to miss it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Moni, do you want to shout anything out?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at @Mona_Salama. And same thing on Facebook, and we'll see. Hopefully, can I sneak inside your suitcase and go back to Iowa, because I just realized there was a town hall like Haley and DeSantis on CNN.
Mm-hmm.
This election is so
they're doing a
boring.
debate.
The debate right today.
So
It's a bi-
on the 10th,
yeah.
CNN is hosting a debate between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, and we are going to counter their programming with our own town hall featuring Vivek Ramaswamy.
They're saying Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley answer questions from Iowa voters in back-to-back CNN town halls as the state pivots to Iowa caucus.
Yeah, they have something going on tonight.
They
right?
have it right now.
Oh, wow.
This is how
Who cares?
boring both of these guys are.
really didn't.
Nobody
That
cares.
like
Yeah.
I
All right,
remember
well,
like 2016. Okay, yeah.
Right. So Hannah Claire, you want to shout anything out?
Oh yeah. Well, I want to shout out if you follow at Timcast News on X, it's and on Instagram, but on X we just reached 100,000 followers. It's been a ton of work from the team. I really appreciate it, and it really is ultimately all of you guys and your support. So keep following them there because you can see all the work from scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Again, same cool team. Really proud of what they're doing. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up this year, and it's going to be a very, very busy news year if you haven't already picked up on that. So we'd love to be a part of the people that inform you. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on X or Twitter or whatever it's called at HC Guys, thank you so much for everything. And Brett, thanks for being here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. And please go and check out Pop Culture Crisis. We are live at 3 p.m. Eastern every day during the week, Monday through Friday. Not just pop culture and celebrities, but we get into a lot of things to do with social media trends, things to do with Instagram, TikTok, all of these things, Gen Z, millennials, all of it. It's a lot of fun. Come and check us out. I think you guys will enjoy it.
And please go follow their show, guys. PCC is great. I'd love to see you guys get over 100K. That'd be sweet.
Soon.
Is there a URL?
It's
No, like do we have a .com?
like
for
a
you?
YouTube. No, I don't think there's like a URL for the show specifically, but you can find it also on timcast.com. But also just look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, that natural growth is always good. Yeah, guys. I'm Serge.com. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for coming very much. Appreciate it.
Go to popculturecrisis.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Popculturecrisis.com redirects to the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And everyone should go and subscribe to that. Bump them up to 100K.
100K. Let's do it, y'all. Please.
All right. We're going to go to timcast.com for that uncensored show in just about 1 minute. We'll see y'all there. Thanks.